Prayers.
Almighty God, who in thy wisdom and goodness has appointed the offices of rulers and parliament for the welfare of society and just government of men, we beseech thee to behold with thy abundant favor us, thy servants, whom thou hast been pleased to call to the performance of important tasks in this land. Let thy blessing descend upon us here in this house assembled. Grant us that we may treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner, to promote thy honor and glory, to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of this country, and of those whose interest thou hast committed to our church. Amen.
Correction and approval of records of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Monday, 12 December 2022.
Honorable members, the records of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Monday, 12 December 2022 is before us for correction and approval. Can any honorable member please move that the said record of votes and proceedings be considered and approved? Any member for member for Upper Florida West?
Yes, thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. I rise to move a motion for correction and approval of records of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Monday, 12 December 2022.
Any seconder? The member for Lower Salo?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to second the motion.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the records of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Monday, 12 December 2022 be approved. Any corrections or observations from honorable members? We will go page by page. If any member have any issues for corrections or concerns, you may do so. The member for Talinding Kunjang.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Page 1. On the motion, the second line, government of is missing. Be it resolved that this August Assembly do consider and ratify the agreement between the government of the Gambia and the government of is missing. Government of India.
Yes. Honorable members, are you following? Yes. Any further observation? Member for Bakau on page 1. We are on page 1.
Page 1.
Yes.
Where you have the assembly conveyed 23 minutes, it should be the assembly conveyed at.
Where?
Right on top.
Yes, that's on top. Are you following? The assembly convened. Honorable member, what's your proposal? What's your proposal? He says it should be the assembly convened at 23 minutes after 11 o'clock. Are you following? Yes. Any further? Now can we move to page 2? Page 2. Any observation? Honorable members, can we move to page 3 if there are no other observations on page 2? Okay. Page 4. Page 4, it appears. Yes, Jara Central, please.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Page 4, ensuing debate. The following honorable members participated in the debate on the motion, and then the list was counting. It stopped at number 8, but it's supposed to be up to number 9 because the Honorable's Deputy Speaker also did contribute. I think he was in fact the last contributor. Honorable Sidi S.K. Njai. Yes, should be captured.
Yeah, thank you. Note that down. Any further?
Yes.
Member for
yes, Honorable
Upper
Speaker.
Fuladu.
Yes, looking at end of debate on the page 4, end of debate, where the Honorable Minister for Defense responded to issues raised, and I think it should be round up the debate. Okay.
Yes, I think it is correct. The member for Opanyomi?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The question put and agreed to that the Assembly ratify the agreement between the government of the Gambia and the government of India on visa exemption for diplomatic
on which
and
page?
Official passport. The ayes had it. There is no question. So, okay.
I think it's. I think it's okay as it is. Yeah, it says the question put and agreed to. Any further observation on page 4? Thank you very much, honorable members. It has been moved and seconded that the records of votes and proceeding of the National Assembly sitting of Monday, 12 December 2022 be approved with amendment. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Honorable members, in accordance with Order 14.3 of the Standing Orders of the National Assembly, I will vary the order of business for us to proceed with item number 4, that's bills to be allowed for the first reading. Thank you. Clerk.
Bills, Standing Order 65, first reading of the following bills. 1. Labor Bill 2022 by the Honorable Minister for Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment.
Honorable members, in accordance with Clause 65, only the first reading of the Labor Bill 2022 will be done today. Therefore, I will now invite the Honorable Minister for Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment, represented by the Attorney General and Minister for Justice, to hand over a copy of the bill to the Clerk of the National Assembly, who will read aloud the short title whereupon the bill shall be deemed to have been read a first time. Thank you.
Labor Bill 2022.
Honorable members, the bill has been read a first time. The next stage of the Labor Bill 2022 is appointed for Monday, 19 December 2022 for the person in charge of the bill to move a motion for the second reading in accordance with Standing Order 66-2, which reads, at the conclusion of the proceeding on the first reading or on any subsequent stage of a bill, the next stage may be taken either forthwith or upon a day to be named, provided that second reading shall be taken no sooner than 1 working day after the first reading. Thank you. Clerk, we may proceed.
Bill, Standing Order 65, first reading of the State-Owned Enterprises Bill 2022 by the Honorable Minister for Finance and Economic Affairs.
Honorable members, in accordance with Clause 65, only the first reading of the State-Owned Enterprise Bill 2022 will be done today. Therefore, I will now invite the Honorable Minister for Finance and Economic Affairs, the person in charge of the bill, represented here by the Attorney General and Minister for Justice, to hand over a copy of the bill to the Clerk of the National Assembly, who will read aloud the short title, whereupon the bill shall be deemed to have been read a first time. Thank you.
State-Owned Enterprises Bill 2022.
Honorable members, the bill has been read a first time. The next stage of the State-Owned Enterprises Bill 2022 is appointed for Monday, 19 December 2022, for the person in charge of the bill to move a motion for the second reading in accordance with Standing Order 66-2, which reads, at the conclusion of the proceedings on the first reading or on any subsequent stage of a bill, the next stage may be taken either forthwith or upon a day to be named, providing that second reading shall be taken no sooner than 1 working day after first reading. I wish to thank the Attorney General, Minister for Justice, for ably representing the Ministers for Finance and Economic Affairs and that of the Public Service for that, and I want to thank the honorable members. Clerk, we may proceed.
Laying of papers and reports. Report of the Finance and Public Accounts Committee, Fpac, on the audit report of government's COVID-19 response, Phase 1, by the Honorable Chairperson of the committee.
Honorable Member, Honorable Chairpersons, and a minority leader, and the member for Brikama North.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable members, it could be recalled the last session, this particular report was part of the agenda. Unfortunately, we ran out of time for the report to be presented to this August Assembly. Similarly, a motion was passed before this August Assembly for the incomplete or completed businesses that were not laid in the 5th legislature to be continued or handed over to the 6th legislature. Prior to that motion, it was formally agreed at the level of Fpac for the consolidated report and then the COVID-19 report of the 5th legislature be considered by the 6th legislature, Fpac, and if the plenary pass the motion, then we can also use that to lay the report of the 5th legislature by the 6th legislature. Looking into the importance of the two reports, having successfully laid the first one, and today we are here gathered to lay the report of the 5th legislature by the 6th legislature. We have noted the tremendous effort and work done by the 5th legislature in reaching to this particular report. They had gone through the report of the National Audit, engaged the relevant stakeholders thoroughly, and concluded in getting the report relating to the National Audit report on their findings, recommendations, and then the audit comments that were captured in the National Audit Report and the response given by the relevant stakeholders, the Fifth Legislature resolved to providing this report. Looking into the background and then the nitty-gritty involved, the committee deemed it necessary for a member of the then Fifth Legislature to lead in the presentation of the report. On that, we are privileged to have still two outstanding members of the Fifth Legislature in the Sixth Legislature, and one of them is present, that is the Vice Chair currently. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, it is my pleasure to inform you that the Vice Chair will lead the presentation of the Fifth Legislature report of the COVID-19. I now hereby invite the Vice Chair to lead the presentation.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I hereby lead the report. If you look at the cover page, it says final report, but it should say phase 1 because we are going to be doing phase 2 as well. So it should say phase 1 report of the Finance and Public Accounts Committee on the audit report of the government COVID-19 response, procurement and distribution of food and medical items. Page 3, acknowledgement. The Finance and Public Accounts wish to register its appreciation to the Office of the Clerk for the support and the subject matter specialists who helped them to complete this Herculean task within a short period of time. The committee commends the Auditor General and team for the good work in highlighting the deficiency in our public financial management and reporting to the National Assembly on its findings. Finally, the committee would like to thank the witnesses and the media for their openness to the observations made and professionalism during the scrutiny of the audit report. Introduction. The Finance and Public Accounts Committee, Fpac, received a formal presentation of the audit report on the government COVID-19 response, that is the procurement and distribution of food and medical items only, from the Auditor General on February 14, on Friday, 14 January 2022, and convened a public hearing on the report from the 24th to 31st of January 2022. Key witnesses from ministries and of finance, trade, and health were summoned to appear before the committee to answer queries highlighting in the report on their ministries. Similarly, the National Disaster Management Agency, NDMA, and the Gambia Public Procurement Authority, GPPA, were also summoned to give testimony before the committee on the distribution of food items and the procurement-related issues, respectively. The report highlights key findings of the committee on the audit report and provides recommendation for the consideration of the National Assembly. Responses of the witnesses were captured in relation to the questions or queries raised by the committee of the auditors. The audit report covers the procurement and distribution of medical and food items in the Greater Banjul area, which, according to the National Audit Office, attracts significant public interest. In conducting the audit, various programs were assessed by the auditors using the relevant criteria that govern procurement and the distribution as per the Public Procurement Act 2014, Public Finance Act 2014, and the Finance Regulation of 2016. Standard operation procedures for storage and distribution of medical items 2018, and other relevant procedural manuals. Being an unprecedented global public health pandemic, with severe health and economic consequences, COVID-19 responses attracted a lot of funding from the government and donors. Thus, the role of NAO, that is the National Audit Office, became increasingly important in assisting the government response process by maintaining public financial management, discipline, and safeguarding transparency and accountability. However, due to the concern for protecting livelihoods and public health, as emphasized by all governments in the world, the auditors were constrained both by the physical contact limitations and the need to avoid inhibiting government's prompt response to the pandemic. Thus, key oversight controls may suffer, particularly as public financial management systems are streamlined to be more flexible. A brief history about the outbreak. According to the report, the Gambia recorded its first case on 17th of March 2020. This prompted the President of the Republic to declare a state of public emergency on the 27th of March 2020 to curb the spread of the virus. This had led to the closure of all non-essential businesses. The Ministry of Finance, Economic Affairs performed a preliminary assessment of the potential effect of the pandemic on the economy and projected a decline in real gross domestic product, that's the real GDP, growth of the economy from 6.2% to 3.2%. The pandemic led to disruptions of key sectors of the economy, such as tourism, trade, foreign direct investment, remittances, employment, among others. Thus, the government's decision to initiate relief packages. The government redirected 1.7 billion from the budget to cater for the needs of the citizenry. Out of the total sum, 750 million was for health and economic response, and 909 million was procurement of food items for vulnerable households. Moreover, additional funding and other assets were provided by donors. So the table actually shows the contribution of government and the World Bank to this effect. The mandate of Fpac. Section 109, subsection 1 of the 1997 Constitution establishes committees of the National Assembly, which includes the Finance and Public Accounts Committee. The mandate and powers of the committee are further outlined in section 109, subsection 2 and 3. The Standing Orders 112, 2 of the National Assembly further outlines the detailed mandate of the committee. That is, in quote, it shall be the duty of the Finance and Public Accounts Committee to examine the accounts showing the appropriation of sums granted by the Assembly to meet the public expenditure and such other accounts laid before by the Assembly, as the Assembly may prefer to the committee, together with the auditor's report thereon. The methodology we used. The committee adopted the following methods during the course of exercising its duty. 1, witnesses were summoned to appear before the committee, and questions were raised by honorable members on each audit query in the report. 2, witnesses were allowed to answer the questions raised. 3, additional responses different from the management letter were also provided by the witnesses. 4, responses were recorded and they form part of this report and key findings. Now, the key findings from the report. According to the statement by the Auditor General on the report, in quote, the audit revealed control weaknesses such as non-compliance with the financial and procurement regulations and lack of transparency in the award of contracts. The planning of the food distribution was at best chaotic, resulting in severe delays in the distribution of food items to some regions. There was also no specific guideline for the identification of vulnerable persons, resulting in some vulnerable households not benefiting from the support to which they were entitled. End of quote. He further encourages the government to support to which they were entitled. He further encourages the government to implement recommendations contained in the report to avoid reoccurrence in the future. The key findings on the institutions audited and their responses to the Fpac. Ministry of Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment. From the speech of the 26th April 2020, the President of the Republic of the Gambia made a commitment that through MOFIA, they will put aside 734 million environment from debt relief towards food support for the citizens. Additional environments were subsequently made, bringing total environments to approximately 1 billion. The government recognized that Gambians deserved an urgent national response to both the health and socio-economic crisis resulting from losses in productivity and remittances to Gambian households. The government promised to ensure that support is provided to all citizens, especially the vulnerable, is real in value. The following audit queries were highlighted against the Ministry of Trade in the report and responses from the key witnesses. 1.1, no needs assessment. The audit report highlighted a total of 832 million, which was spent on the procurement of rice, sugar, and oil to support vulnerable households during the pandemic. However, this was done without conducting a needs assessment. Furthermore, the contracts committee procured more bags of sugar and drums of oil than the planned procurement as indicated in the table below. So you will see the table, open tender 230,000, and then the quantity procured 264,000, etc. So moreover, the approval of the items and the quantities specified to be procured by the main committee, that is the COVID-19 Cabinet Subcommittee, was not presented to the auditors for review. The assessment would have identified the quantities of rice, sugar, and oil required and the regions that needed the most support. The auditor further indicated that the contracts committee could not have provided justification for the quantities of rice, sugar, and oil procured to support vulnerable households. Procurement should not have been carried out without a proper needs assessment, which ensures that the required food quantities are procured and helps to avoid wastage through poor planning. Responses. NDMA reported that owing to time constraint, they were not able to do a physical assessment of vulnerable households. And since there was no social registry in the Gambia, they did not have a literature review regarding vulnerable households in the Gambia. That was used as a basis to determine how many food items would be needed for each region. Recommendation. A needs assessment report should have been prepared before the procurement exercise commenced. That assessment should report equally be presented to the auditors on review for review. Officials found wanting should be sanctioned accordingly. 1.2, that is unconfirmed business registration and potential tax evasion. The report highlighted the contracts awarded to 2 suppliers whose business registration certificates were not provided to the auditors for review. This could lead to potential loss of revenue to the government through non-payment of tax and cast doubt over the legal status of the said business. Responses. The previous GPPA approval of the affected businesses was relied on to award them contracts. MAA Foundation for Women failed to deliver the whole consignment since MK Stores and LB Gay and Sons could supply the outstanding quantities they were contracted to do so, claiming that the President urgently needed to make a statement. Recommendation. The Contracts Committee must ensure that all processes and procedures are adhered to before undertaking any procurement activity. 1.3, that is single source of 15% contingency fund. The report highlighted that payment amounting to 116 million were made to suppliers by the Contracts Committee using a single source procurement method without obtaining approval from the GPPA. The single source procurement method should only be used in exceptional circumstances and can only be done after seeking formal approval from the GPPA. Thus, this was a violation of the procurement regulations. Recommendation or responses from the NDMA. The NDMA officials relied on Section 88, subsection A of the NDMA Act 2008, which deals with emergency procurement, and it reads, notwithstanding the provisions of the Gambia Public Procurement Act 2001, whereby reason of any threatening disaster, situation or disaster, the agency, a regional disaster committee, district disaster committee, or village disaster committee is satisfied that immediate procurement of provisions or materials or the immediate application of resources are necessary for rescue of relief. B, it may authorize the department or authority concerned to make the emergency procurement, in which case the standard procedure requiring invitation of tenders for quotations shall be deemed to be waived. Recommendations. The relevant GPPA approvals must be sought for all single source procurements. The Fpac informed the NDMA that this section they are quoting applies to funds within their control and cannot be used on the COVID funds. And as such, they must consult with GPPA for all single source procurement. The Fpac further recommends an amendment of the GPPA Act to incorporate emergency procurement or to incorporate in the GPPA bill of 2021 that is under consideration. And that process was done. Payments, 1.4. The audit queried that payment vouchers amounting to 64 million were not presented for verification, and all payment vouchers for procurement conducted by the committee were not supported with suppliers' receipts. Additionally, payment vouchers amounting to 365 million were not stamped by the Accountant General's Department to confirm that payment were done appropriately. No payment should have been processed without the required documentation as dictated by the Financial Regulation of 2016. Responses. Accountant General's Department had access to the said payment vouchers, but was not presented in the Procurement Committee and was not privy to this audit query. Recommendation. Whoever is responsible must present the affected payment vouchers to auditors for review and verification. The party that authorized the payment vouchers for the Accountant General's Department must be established and further questioned. 1.5. Unpresented bidding documents. Contracts were awarded using the open tender process during the procurement of the food items. However, the suppliers' bidding documents and some contract documents were not presented to the auditors for review. It should be impossible to check whether the award of those contracts is fair and transparent without the bidding documents. Responses. Based on Section 43, subsection 2 of the GPPA Act, the committee used request for quotation, RFQ, as an alternative to normal bidding. Those quotations were said to be available for presentation to auditors. However, the order on resolved queries were referred by the Minister of Trade to the other agencies like the NDMA since it could not speak for them. Recommendation. The Contracts Committee must provide the bidding documents for review by the auditors. This is the only way to ascertain the criteria used to identify the most responsive or qualified bidder or the supplier. Fpac's conclusion on this one. Further to the stress of evidence presented to the committee by the auditors and responses received from the witnesses, it is clear that the Minister of Trade did not provide adequate and appropriate evidence to the National Audit Office to substantiate whether the procurement process and procedures carried out by the ministry were done fairly and free from malpractice. Therefore, the procurement practices failed to achieve consistency and were not in compliance with the national procurement regulations and laws. Thus, full value for money was not achieved and public resources may have been wasted. 2.2, National Disaster Management Agency distribution. The government, through the Ministry of Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment, in collaboration with the National Disaster Management Agency, NDMA, had financing towards the cost of food commodities for COVID-19 emergency food support to vulnerable households in the country. NDMA were responsible for the transportation and distribution of the food items from the assembly centers to the vulnerable citizens through the identified distribution points, that's the DPS. A total amount of 27 million was paid by the Accountant General's Department as of the 31st of October 2020 in relation to the transportation and distribution process. Vulnerable households in BANJUL, Kanifing municipality, and large parts of West Coast region receive food assistance. At least half of all households in these three regions have been identified by their local government authorities based on estimation of vulnerability. The following audit queries were highlighted in the report against the NDMA. 2.1, lapses in identification process of households. Some vulnerable households in Bakau, Newtown, Fajara, and Manjai Kunda, Kotu wards were not registered and therefore did not benefit from the relief package. The absence of criteria in identifying the vulnerable households in Bakau, Newtown, Fajara, and Manjai Kotu wards suggests that households were selected using discretion with the potential of missing out on people that need support the most. A proper needs assessment, including relevant criteria, would have ensured that households are carefully selected and only those considered vulnerable are identified to benefit from the support. Responses. NDMA claimed to have sent an email containing the criteria for selection of eligible households to the local authorities in Banjul and Kanifing municipality. The criteria in question were not made available to the auditors for review and confirmation. Recommendation. Whatever criteria was used in the identification and selection of vulnerable households should have been shown to the auditors. Local authorities must be involved in the identification of vulnerable households within their jurisdiction and distribution of coupons to them. NDMA must ensure that proper controls are implemented to ensure equitable distribution of all vulnerable households. Transportation of food items to distribution points, that's 2.2. Transportation of food items to distribution points began before the delivery of supplies to the assembly points was completed. There was no delivery notes provided to confirm food items were transported to the regions. Therefore, auditors could not confirm if the food items delivered to the assembly points, that is Makati Square, were actually received at the distribution centers. Furthermore, the transportation of food items to Lower River Region, LRR, was carried out without the involvement of NDMA. The coordinating institution responsible for the transportation and distribution of food items, and this increased the risk misappropriation by unauthorized personnel. Moreover, the auditors noted that food items procured exceeded the amount finally delivered to the beneficiaries. Hence, some procurement of food items were either not supplied by suppliers or not taken to the distribution points for distribution. Details are shown. Item sugar, quantity procured 50 kilos, 279,500. Quantity delivered as per the Kobo Collect was 228,337. quantity not delivered to households, 51,133 bags. Rice, 50 kilogram rice. Quantity procured was 264,500. And the quantity delivered to households as per Kobo Collect systems was 228,367. Quantity not delivered to households was 36,133. Oil, 10 liters. Quantity procured, 185,200. Quantity delivered to households as per Kobo Collect system, 176,985. Quantity not delivered was 8,215. The distribution of food items should not have commenced until transportation of food items is completed at the assembly points. All laid down procedures for the transport of food items should have been followed. Responses from the NDMA. Independence Stadium used to be an assembly point, but owing to lack of security for the commodities, they were moved to Makati Square in BANJUL. NDMA denied the audit queries regarding transportation being referred to them for response. Recommendation. The management must account for all undelivered commodities worth over 100 million within 10 days of presenting this report. 2.3, storage and security of food items. Food items were sent to some distribution points without appropriate storage facilities, and some were kept in the open and were exposed to sunlight and dust. This exposure caused damage to some of the food items, leading to wastage of resources. The damaged food items remain unaccounted for. Furthermore, records of the damaged food items were not provided to the auditors for review. Records of all items in inventory, including food items, should always be available and presented for audit. A response by the NDMA. The NDMA claimed that there was a special process monitoring committee. They admitted that some stocks were spoiled, and they wrote to Food and Quality Authority, FSQA, to get those discarded. Recommendation. To avert damages of wastage, government inventory must be kept in well-maintained stores. The committee should ensure that proper planning is conducted before distribution, and food items should be stored in a secure way. Furthermore, the Fpac needs to be provided with a certificate of destruction of all discarded stock within 10 days of presenting this report. 2.4, timely distribution of food items. There was excessive delay during the procurement of food items and distribution to vulnerable households. NDMA was late in the finalization of household information and printing of coupons. After the procurement of the food items, beneficiaries could not receive the said items in due course. Responses from NDMA. According to NDMA, they encountered difficulty in printing the coupons at the Gambia Public Procurement Corporation, GPPC. This was what made them resort to using the dockets to facilitate quick distribution. Recommendation. Going forward, NDMA must prepare accurate and reliable household data. Also, printed coupons must be readily be available before any procurement and distribution activity is initiated. 2.5, that is payment made for food items not delivered. Examination of procurement file with payment voucher number 15 PV2000092 and delivery note revealed that international commodity insurance was contracted and paid by the contracts committee for the supply of food items. The National Audit Office noted that oil was short by 53,791 10-liter gallons and a value of 37,653,700. Responses. The NDMA was unable to account for these differences, and after a marathon questioning, the Director General of the NDMA claimed that they had the items. Recommendations. The Director General must forthwith deposit these funds at the National Treasury and notify Fpac within 10 days of presenting this report. Fpac's conclusion. Based on the evidence obtained from the auditor's report and responses from the witnesses, Fpac can only conclude, therefore, that the storage and distribution process did not fully comply with the laws and regulations that govern them. The auditors could not receive sufficient information and documentation from NDMA to substantiate that transportation and distribution of food relief to vulnerable households was done and following due process. We'll move into the Ministry of Health, the procurement and distribution of medical items. As dictated by the prevailing global circumstances, the Gambia was required to deal with and responded to the global pandemic of COVID-19. As a result, the government redirected its mega resources to fund $750 million package for the health response and relief of social and economic distress caused by COVID-19. This audit covered the procurement and distribution of medical items, recording and distribution of donated medical items within the Greater Banjul area and the West Coast region. The procurement of medical items was funded from two sources: government local funds, GLF, and a World Bank grant. Each of these was audited by the NAO, and the findings are detailed below. 3.1, government local funds. Through stakeholders like the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs and the Minister of Health, the government of the Gambia prepared a supplementary appropriation bill and environments to finance the health sector in response to the COVID-19 emergency. This amount amounted to a whopping $750 million. From the budget, the Minister of Health performed procurement and distribution of medical items amounting to $23 million. That is 3.1% of the GLF fund. World Bank grant. The World Bank, through the Ministry of Health Project Coordinating Unit, PCU, provided a grant of $11 million to support the government in the procurement of equipment and assorted medical items geared towards fighting COVID-19. To this end, NAO's audit focused on the procurement of medical items from TMS Turkish supplies. The government contributed $2 million, equivalent to $100 million towards this. The World Bank, on the other hand, provided $1,946,637 that is equivalent to $97 million. Thus, the total amount of money spent on the procurement of medical items from TMS Turkey supplies was $3,946,637. That is approximately $197 million. 3.3, failure to perform needs assessment and specifications. The procurement of medical items amounted to $123,232,642 were made without a proper assessment. The Minister of Health could not be sure of the usefulness of some medical items in fighting the pandemic. Auditors also noted that detailed specifications of the medical items were not provided by the Finance and Procurement Committee. Subsequently, the Ministry procured items such as COVID organics that are not useful in response to COVID-19. This resulted in a waste of government resources and reduced the effectiveness of COVID-19 response. Response from the Minister of Health. The Director of Health Services stated that there was no need for a lengthy needs assessment, which would not have been an obstacle to a swift response to COVID-19. He said an assessment of the state of the country's health sector and the treatment centers was done. This was used to develop a procurement plan that was submitted to the Finance and Procurement Committee. Since the Directorate of Health Services was not required to secure approval for the said plan, it was not sought. Recommendation. Procurements must never be initiated without a proper needs assessment. After proper identification of needs assessment, complete specifications should be prepared and ensure that the items procured are in line with the requirements. 3.4, unspecified method of identification and selection of suppliers. Neither was the methodology used in selecting the suppliers that were awarded contracts specified in the procurement documents, nor could the procurement officer at the project coordinating unit explain. Therefore, it was impossible to verify whether the contracts committee were awarded to achieve value for money. Responses from the Minister of Health. Owing to the panic and fear caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, re-export trade was not allowed between countries. The Minister of Health even went with the ambassador to Senegal in search of possible suppliers. Similarly, the tendering process was not possible owing to time constraint by virtue of the emergency. Recommendation. Procurement processes should be thoroughly documented and filed for future use. No payment for procurement should be processed without supporting documents. 3.5, that is single source. Payment amounting to $2,217,987 were single source and paid to Laser Transport International without proper GPP approval. A response from the Ministry. The said payment made to facilitate timely response to COVID was received by the Chief of Cabinet of the President of Guinea-Bissau. It was said to be for only the transportation of the COVID organic donated by the Republic of Madagascar. Although the COVID organic was never tried in the Gambia, the Minister of Health is monitoring relevant literature to ascertain the efficacy of the COVID organic in other jurisdictions. Recommendation. Single source procurement can only be used in exceptional circumstances, and after seeking and receiving formal approval from GPPA, the Accountant General must provide a receipt for the payment to Lisa Travel amounting to $2.2 million for the transportation of the COVID organic donated by the Republic of Madagascar. Then the next one is the 3.6, payment made without supporting documents. Payment totaling $22,669,674 were made without proper supporting documents. Without payment vouchers, receipts, and delivery notes, it is impossible to ascertain whether the payment was executed diligently. Responses. The payment vouchers in question were quoted in response to the auditors. The procurement committee's approval relates to groundworks. Payment above 100,000 were done through bank-to-bank transfer via the Treasury main account, that's the TMA. Recommendations. Documents must always be presented to justify payments made. On no account should payments be processed without adequate supporting documents. All the missing supporting documents must be sought and attached to the relevant payment vouchers. 3.7, inventory systems and tally cards. Inventory systems were not properly working at the central medical stores and the health facilities visited by the auditors. Tally cards were not maintained. Neither were regular stock checks carried out and documented. This posed a significant risk of items being lost or stolen without trace. Responses from the ministry. Auditors were told the right processes and procedures were followed, and all the items were reported to have been delivered with proper procedures being followed, but no further evidence was provided to substantiate this claim. Recommendations. Tally cards must be maintained at all health facilities and regular reconciliations conducted between these records and physical items held in stores. Any differences discovered must be fully investigated and reported. Fpac's conclusion. The audit exercise by the National Audit Office has brought to light inadequate or inappropriate evidence being presented by the Minister of Health to substantiate the procedures carried out during the procurement and distribution processes. Procurements carried out were not executed in line with acceptable procurement standards, regulations, or laws. Procurement and distribution of medical items for use in fight against COVID-19 were not conducted in accordance with relevant laws, regulations, World Bank procurement requirements, standard operating procedures, and stores regulations. These aforesaid lapses unequivocally indicate that money has been wasted. Moreover, poor controls surrounding distribution and storage of medical items increase the risk of such items not being readily available or effectively used in the treatment of patients. Final conclusion. Whilst acknowledging the emergency nature of the situation, many procurements of food and medical items did not comply with relevant laws and regulations. Issues of non-compliance were regular at all the stages of the procurement and distribution cycle and across the procurement and or the distribution of both food and medical items. Thus, full value for money might not have been achieved. Public resources were wasted and the government of the Gambia COVID-19 response was not maximized. Therefore, it is important that even when the country is faced with an emergency situation, proper procedures as per the law are followed. Although it may be necessary for laws and regulations to be flexible based on the experiences from the initial pandemic response, this cannot be used as an excuse for the repeated breaches included in this report. Mostly, these breaches did not give any obvious benefit in responding to COVID-19, and in some cases are likely to have actually undermined the overall objective of treating sick patients and supporting the vulnerable households. Often, these breaches are likely to have led to a significant waste of public resources. In conclusion, the government should implement all the recommendations made by the Fpac to avoid recurrence in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair. Any seconder? Member for Central Baribu.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, the mover of the motion. I would like to second the motion and continue my debate. Honorable Speaker, I would like to salute the Fpac committee for the tremendous job being done. I can stand high among all Gambians and say justice has been done to this document. Honorable Speaker, the report exposed a lot that there is high corruption in our procurement system, there is mismanagement of resources, there is poor data collection, and the right of the vulnerable people some of them did not get what they're supposed to get as far as the distribution is concerned. Honorable Speaker, the recommendations made by Fpac, I believe the members of this House must add their voice and look at those recommendations to enrich them, to better formulate them so that action is taken immediately. Honorable Speaker, it's high time the culprits, the perpetrators, those who are found wanting are brought before justice. Honorable Speaker, we cannot see our country looming into this kind of vicious cycle of robbing the resources of the state and the poor people. This is what the report have manifested. Honorable Speaker, in one part of the report, particularly at the end tail, where Fpac highlighted that almost approximately 197 million amount of Gambian dollars was used on procuring on what? Medical items. So follow-up need to be done to see whether all these funds are implemented well or not. Honorable Speaker, we talk about transporting a medical item from Madagascar. That fund, I put a big question mark to that. We need to know, because according to the report, how that money was disbursed was not in the right spirit of the way it was done. And we need to find out whether that drug was used in the Gambia. Let them pay the money. If you violate the rule, a rule is a rule, no matter what happens. We have exceptional cases, and what those exceptional circumstances require, we have to do that. People cannot just go and bend the rules to suit their own personal interests. The country suffered a lot, enough is enough, and it's high time we work seriously with this report. The recommendations are there. There were no proper need assessments done. How can you implement or carry it out on a serious financial transaction without making assessment? We can't accept that. Awarding of contracts. We all know what the GPPA rules. People are violating it broad daylight. The excuses being given by NDMA cannot be taken by this honorable House. They are very cheap excuses, honorable members. We need to see to it that people are accountable to whatever they do. That's our task. Once again, the money for the transportation, almost 2 million Gambian dollars on single source to pay to Lizard Transport International with a proper GPPA approval. The recommendation should be this money should be paid back. It should be paid back. Let us not only be recommending for future, let action be taken. The perpetrators must be brought to justice. We need to further recommend to set up a commission of inquiry to further digress on these issues. Because this is alarming. It's serious. Any serious country on earth will not accept this thing to go free like this. We have seen it in other countries in the sub-region where it happens. And we have seen where people were arrested to face justice. As that now we'll assume that they are not guilty. But the loss of the land needs to take its course. Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we talk about storage and distribution. The excuses given are very weak. Where are the spoilage goods? We have never seen them. And look at how they purchase, oil and rice. Look at the process of procurement that they have taken. You know that at the material time, what people needed at the time was rice. You went and purchased more of it. So this is a game that we cannot just be dribbled in this house. That's why I said Fpac has to be saluted for fishing out all these irregularities. So it's time for action. We cannot forgive these people who manage these funds to go free. I, for one, I will never forgive anybody who is involved one way or the other. So actions need to be taken. I thank Fpac committee, the chair, and the members for the job well done. This exposes a lot that we have to be serious as a nation builders. We have to be serious as people who are ready to champion development. Funds must be respected. These funds are not only gifts from donors, but even our JLF is involved, according to the report. They came here, all these parliamentary members during the time, we supported them. You go to communities in my constituency, some of them we are registered, they didn't have anything. Monies were given to people as they wish. What kind of system is going on in this country? Honorable Speaker, I thank you for giving me the floor.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Central Baribu. It has been moved and seconded that this Honorable Assembly to consider the report of the Finance and Public Accounts Committee, Fpac, on the audit report of Government's COVID-19 Response, Phase 1. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Any honorable member who wishes to take part in the debate may do so now by show of tag, constituency tag. May I now recognize the member for Kiang West.
Honorable Speaker, colleague honorable members here present. First, I think all of us owe a big congratulations to Fpac to say thank you very much for job well done. They've done justice to the job that they have been assigned with. But, Honorable Speaker, it is so sad, to be quite frank with you. The reality is that those of us who are engaged in corruption directly love it, and those of us who are not engaged in it directly accommodate it. Our level of tolerance for corruption in this country is amazing. The corruption is walking naked in our country. COVID-19 response fund, we can now qualify the information given by the Honorable Minister previously, before this August Assembly, that there is corruption in his ministry with respect to COVID-19 fund. This report has justified the information that he has given about his own ministry. Honorable Speaker, looking at food items that were procured but not distributed are too much. Where has these food items gone into? At some point, even alcalos were corrupt in this process. Writing names, duplication of names at some communities. I could remember we were on a trip to some of the provincial areas. Some communities had serious clash over this response fund. Different names, are they given to households or are they given to, let's say, family owners? No one knows. Some were saying households, but different people at the same households were issued monies at different times. Because the matter of the fact was that a proper need assessment was not done, and people who were entrusted to write names were not doing the job well. And Alcalo writing your name, writing your wife's name, writing your elder son's name, you know, in a single household. What kind of a system are we operating in this country? 750 million Gambian dollars, 750 million Gambian dollars through a supplementary appropriation from our national resources has been spent on COVID-19. Our health system is still the poorest in the sub-region. With this amount of money, Honorable Speaker, I think I would love to agree generally with the seconder of this motion, Honorable Badibu Central, that these people must be held to account and necessary steps must be taken to call them to justice. If anybody needs to face the justice, you need to go face justice and pay these monies. This belongs to Gambian people. Look at the entire amount of money that came. Look at it. It says the government of the Gambia, food items procurement and distribution, 859,365,000 Gambian dollars. Medical items procurement and distribution, 123 million. Total, you have 982 million. You come down to World Bank. It says the money that was given was all spent on medical equipment, and still we are crying of an oxygen support for premature babies to incubators, some of our health centers, with all these monies that we have. In fact, I think the Minister of Health has killed more people than COVID-19 entirely has killed in this country. And people are still dying because there is no proper medical response to the people in this country. In total, we have $1,079,930,000 in total for the procurement of food items and medical equipment. Honorable Speaker, I think enough is enough. We have been speaking too much. Our ministries, our government officials, ourselves, we pushing Gambians too much. Let us not push citizens to that pain. People have suffered a lot. All these things are going on. Still, our people are drinking on open wells. Still, our people are on open defecations in this 21st century. It is so sad we received this kind of a report. I think the National Assembly should take this report serious and support the Fpac and have a commission against these people so that we take necessary steps against them. Honorable Speaker, it's so sad to definitely have such a report at the most difficult time of the year. At the most difficult time, some parents were sent home, some institutions were closed because of the pandemic, some salaries were cut, some allowances were cut. So the monies that our country allocated to go and support these people who may lost their jobs during this time. Our official domain, officials are taking these monies for what? Go and distribute these materials you refuse to? Honorable Speaker, the sugar, 50 kilograms that was procured, the quantity of 279,500. The quantity delivered, 280,367. 51,133 bags of 50 kilograms of sugar was not delivered. Where has it gone? Honorable Speaker, 50 kilograms rice, 264,500 was procured. Honorable Speaker, 28,367 was delivered. Honorable Speaker, 36,133 was not also delivered. Where has this gone? Oil, 10 liters, 184,200 was procured, 176,985 was delivered, 8,215 was not delivered. Honorable Speaker, I submit.
Thank you, the Honorable Member for Kiang West. I now give the floor to the member for Woolly East.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, let me thank the Fpac for a very good job done on this report. I believe that the committee has taken a lot of time and effort to ensure that these facts come to light. Honorable Speaker, it has been stated that the duty of the Finance and Public Accounts Committee is to examine the accounts showing the appropriation of sums granted by the Assembly to meet the public expenditure and such other accounts laid before the Assembly, as the Assembly may refer the committee, etc., etc. So that's the duty of the committee, and they have done their work, especially on this particular matter. So it is the responsibility of the National Assembly to look at the findings that are in the report and to also come up with a resolution on the recommendations that have already been made by the committee to ensure that wherever we see lapses, we correct them. Honorable Speaker, we are talking about not $1,000. We are talking about $1.7 billion. That is more than what we allocate to agriculture, to women's ministry, maybe to 3 or 4 ministries, or even 5 ministries, will still together not have this 1.7 billion. So it's not small money that we are dealing with. So I believe that when we scrutinize this, we should do it well. And I believe there is not much to say about it because the report has said everything that is necessary. But I concur with the report, especially in the area of the findings. Honorable Speaker, on, I think it's page 6, where you have the findings. It says, according to the statement by the Auditor General on the report, the audit revealed control weaknesses, such as non-compliance with financial and procurement regulations and lack of transparency in the award of contracts. So this I agreed.
If you read everything, you will see that everything is chaotic, resulting in severe delays in the distribution of food items to some regions. During this period, I spent all my time going to NDMA to inform them that this particular village, has not got this particular community is exempted, etc., etc. I continue to follow this, not only at the NDMA headquarters, but also even in their regional headquarters, to ensure that villages that are exempted. And all this was done because of lack of proper planning, lack of proper preparation. There were no assessments done, etc., etc. And all this, you go into distribution without assessment. How are you going to do that? We are dealing with vulnerable families, How do you know which one is vulnerable and which one is not vulnerable if we don't do assessment? So I don't see any excuse that will make sure that, that will tell me that there is no need for that type of assessment. Otherwise, you know that you are going into it to create chaos. Honorable Speaker, also, if you go to page 7, page 7 is saying the contracts committee procured more bags of sugar and drums of oil than the planned procurement, as indicated in the table below. So you can see the table. They have procured 15,000 bags of sugar, which is above what they are asked to do. They have also procured 15,000 drums of oil above the stipulated amount. Why did they do those type of things? Everything is stipulated, but then you go beyond what you are asked to procure. What happens to those 15,000? Because that means that it's not needed. And how do they even come to this conclusion? Because they have not done proper assessment. So these are just estimates from the head. Honorable Speaker, if you go to page 8, it says they are doing things without obtaining approval from the GPPA. So we establish institutions, but we do not respect those institutions. We give roles to institutions. And wherever it favors us, we go to them. When it does not favor us, we neglect them and do our own things. How do we do things correctly in this country? How do we avoid corruption? Because these institutions are established to ensure that we minimize lapses. But if it is our choice, we know that we cannot do this because, the one that is giving the donation is saying, you must go and get this permission from GPA. Then we go there and say, GPA, we need this because, there is a condition. But if there is no condition, or when it does not fit us, we just neglect the GPA and do our own thing, because nothing comes out of it anyway. So these are some of the things that are bedeviling us. If you go to page 9, it is saying, Honorable Speaker, that $64 million were not presented for verification, and all payment vouchers for procurements conducted by the committee were not supported with suppliers' receipts. And then another $365 million were not stamped by the Accountant General's Department to confirm that payments were done appropriately. So that's what I'm trying to say. The Accountant General is there, you know that you need to go there to stamp, but you don't. Because you don't want him to know at that material time. You want to do it. If you do your thing, then you go to the Accountant General and stamp it. You know that this is the first thing to do, and this is the second thing. There are steps, but you refuse to take those steps because you have an ulterior motive as to why you are doing those things. And if you go to page 10, also, Honorable Speaker, you will see that 24 million, well, before I even come to that, is saying it is clear that the Ministry of Trade did not provide adequate and appropriate evidence to NAO to substantiate whether the procurement processes and procedures carried out by the ministry were done fairly and freely from any malpractices. So you sideline the NAO as well, because you know if the NAO is involved, you will not be able to do what you intend to do. That's what my common sense is telling me. And you come to the same page 10, it says 27 million was paid by the Accountant General's Department as of 31st October 2020 in relation to the transportation and distribution process. 27 million. Honorable Speaker, when we are ratifying this amount, I made a fervent argument here that I don't believe distributing this amount of rice to the communities across the country, may not have problems. That I suggested cash transfer. Because cash transfer, you write the name of the family head, and the family head must sign or stamp or whatever, and then it is easier. You don't need to spend, look at this, $27 million is just to transport, these goods across the country. And after all that, it was not done properly. So, Honorable Speaker, what is in lapses in the identification process of households? That's what I was saying. In my own constituency, I continue to pursue villages and compounds that were marginalized. If you go to the provincial area, almost everybody is affected. Everyone is affected. So the identification process should have captured everybody adequately. The other thing is, Honorable Speaker, if you go to 2.1 of page 10, that is the one I'm just, this is not an easy task because it requires proper data collection well before distribution. If you don't collect the right data, you will not be able to distribute this thing properly. It will come with a lot of, and if you go to page 12, that is payments made for food items not delivered. Now, Honorable, elimination of procurement file with payment voucher number and delivery note revealed that International Commodity Insurance was contracted and paid by the Contracts Committee for the supply of food items. The NAO noted that oil was short by 53,791, that is 10-liter gallons, and had a value of 37,653,700. So where is the money? This is money that is supposed to be spent on something. This is another lapse. If you look at that, on page 13, it says Director General. Now, the Director General, the NDMA was unable to account for these differences. And after a marathon questioning, marathon, marathon is beyond a mile. It's many miles running. So it means that they must have spent something like 30 to 1 hour asking him about this. The Director General, DG of the NDMA, claimed that he had the items. After a marathon discussion, he ended up saying, yes, after all, they are with me. So the DG must forthwith recommendation deposit these funds at the National Treasury and notify the Fpac within 10 days. Within 10 days. So now the Fpac in their reports will tell us whether these things are deposited with the Treasury or not. And if they are not deposited there, then what should we do? Honorable Speaker, also items were mentioned under the Ministry of Health, Procurement and Distribution, so many items. I believe I'm not sure whether they have done that, but I believe the Fpac should take what they call random visit to some health centers. Even if they cannot go everywhere, just random, select 10 health centers and see what is IMAC to be given to these health centers is given to them. Because we are given a list here. Unfortunately, I have the list, and so many things were put there that that's what they have given subsidy to health centers all over the country. And when I inquired from my health centers, they said they have not received anything. So it is important that if this is not done, then the Fpac should continue to definitely visit these health centers to ensure that these things are mentioned. And the interesting thing is that they've done this also without assessment. Without assessment. And what they are saying is that there is no need, virtually there is no need to do assessment. That they can just go ahead and do the distribution. You know, that's not scientific. You just get up and do distribution. And these are fantastic sums, because if you look at, I can see $1,946,637. That is in dollars. Another $3,946,637 million. Approximately 197 million Gambian dollars. So it must be accounted for. If you don't, like the report says, the ministry procured items such as COVID organics that are not useful in response to COVID-19. We are supposed to deal with COVID-19 because the budget must have provided for other items. Now you use the COVID-19 funds to go and procure items that are not necessary for COVID-19 program. What are you doing with those items? You are just buying them off head because you have not done the assessment that is required, because you don't care. This is not your money, this is the poor people's money, so you don't care. You just do whatever you want, which is not fair to the general public. If you look at this, the responses, the Director of Health Services stated that there was no need for a lengthy needs assessment. He's telling you there is no need for assessment. What is lengthy needs assessment? Assessment is assessment. You can make a quick assessment all over the country to know what is required, but you say there is no need, so you just went ahead and buy whatever you want to buy it anyhow you want to buy, without GPPA compliance and all these things. You don't care. So the committee, without wasting time, Honorable Speaker, many comments here, single source, paid to leisure transport international without proper GPP approval. The same thing. Everything is an anomaly. So we must come up with resolution to ensure and follow the resolution to ensure that efforts are done. If need be, even the IG is instructed by the right authorities to investigate these matters to ensure that whoever is culpable is brought to book. On that note, Honorable Speaker, I thank the committee for a very good report. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Member for Woolly East. I now give the floor to the Member for Lower Salem. It's out. The Member for Joshua.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor, and also I would like to join my other colleagues in thanking the Fpac committee for a job well done. This was expected from us as National Assembly members, and also from the committee that led the investigation per se. Thank you also to the National Audit Office. They also did a wonderful job by reporting to the Fpac. The government of the day also made a very good giant step by giving almost 2.7 billion with regards to COVID, to assist the COVID victims. That was a very good gesture, and then we are saying a big thank you to that. Honorable Speaker, going through the report, I think each and every one of us will say there were a lot of lapses and a lot of corruption with regards to this report. And then the committee made a very good job giving them certain days to respond. I don't know whether the response is being done or not. But looking at the payments that were made to different people, without no proper documentation. They see it as something that was very, very urgent. That's why it was being done. But no matter how urgent the situation was, if at all the right thing was not followed, this is the way it will end. It will end like this, where millions of dollars are given to people and they are not accounted for. They cannot give a proper receipt or proper document to show this is how it was spent. Items were bought, some were overbought, some were less, and nothing is being said. Coming to certain items that I have highlighted here through the audit report. An example of almost 5.7 million was given to fuel to these security forces, and they are not accounted for. 5.7 million for fuel that we are not accounted for, according to the audit report. 2.1 was paid to, is it Lisa Airline or what? To bring in only 4 packets of drugs from Guinea-Bissau to the Gambia. For 2.2, only 4 packets of drugs from Guinea-Bissau to the Gambia. That comes from Madagascar. Guinea-Bissau to the Gambia here, $2.1 million was paid. Even if you use a truck to go to Guinea-Bissau and come back, you will spend less than $1 million to the Gambia. I think, yes, there was emergency. Yes, it was an emergency. But no matter how urgent these issues were, I think the right process should have been followed. COVID was something that came unexpectedly to the Gambia. Yes, we heard about it outside. I think they were preparing for it. But when it came, we saw it as something very, very urgent. A reported death of 372 people died. That was reported per se. Even during the period, even if you die of cough, they say you die of corona. With all that, does it warrant us to do anything that you want to do? Does it warrant us to enrich ourselves? Coming to the distribution aspect of it, the way people were distributing these food items to family members was not even right. How do you know that this person is vulnerable or not? Some family members will sit for almost a month without even receiving a single bag of rice. And yet still they were registered. Some were not even registered. So how were they doing their registration? That's at the inception was very wrong. And I have a concern here with regards to $100 million that is being that was not accounted for by the NDMA. And today reporting that those items are still with them. When families are being reported that they haven't even received a single bag of rice, and those items are still lying down there with them, that's a big question that needs to be asked. If Sarkunda family were not able to receive a bag of rice, whilst 200 bags are kept in the store, for what? Now you are saying that those bags are still there. I mean, are we playing or what? What game are we trying to play here? This was not meant to be kept. It was meant to be distributed to people that were in need. And I can bet that many families were in need. Because during that time, everything was very tight and very tough. So you didn't do that distribution. You just kept those things until today you are saying that they are under your custody. It's a big question that we need to ask. Over $100 million? Over $100 million? That's too much. That's definitely too much. And to be honest, that was not right. Honorable Speaker, I think this about the Gambia, and this about our own country, that we need to always be there for when the needs arise. If things of this thing happen, let's not do the Jaranka style to say, that's my opportunity. Let me make good use of it. What is not right is not right. Every time we talk about corruption, till when? When shall it end? I think it should be end here from this National Assembly. There was a bill that was sent here. That bill is still sleeping somewhere at the corner. that bill must come to the National Assembly and we start acting on this. Let's call people to tax. Let's let them respond. Let them explain how this money were spent. 2.7 billion, that's how many ministries' budgets? As one of my colleagues has rightly mentioned. Head of ministry, the agriculture chairman always cry for agriculture. Had him that this money was given to him, I think it would have been a different thing today. Honorable Speaker, when responsibilities are given to people, I think it is now time we start doing our job as required from us as National Assembly members. When we do our rollouts, these are documents that we can use as a guideline. These are documents that we can use to question people and ask them how things were done. GFA gave a report, especially on this single sourcing. Single sourcing is mostly done at times as a way of getting money very easy. Because there you can identify Sri Fatu and Ibrahim to say, come and tender. Tender with A, B, C, and D. But if I told you it was not authorized for you to do it, if you are not authorized to do it, how many millions were involved in this single sourcing? That's a lot of money. And with all that, they are not accounted for. There are no proper documentation, no proper receipt, no proper report. Are we still under the same program of COVID-19? This is now 2022 now. This was when, 3 years ago. Fpac, I think it is now your responsibility. The days that you gave this committee to, these people to respond to you, I don't know the start date for the report. When should they respond to you? But from the date that you have prepared this report, I think that was the time you met and discussed with them. I think from now they should have given you the report by now. I'm appealing to our committee our National Assembly members to pass a resolution and give a timeline on when these people should report as quickly as possible. Let them respond. If they have the invoice, if they have the receipt, let them tender it to Fpac. If there are any problem, let them explain to Fpac why A, B, C, and D happens. When items are being kept to the extent of spoiled, and then what are you calling people to come and throw them out? Were they meant for that? Distribution, the amount that we spent 27 million for what? Transportation. To take rice from BANJUL to Old Joshua at one center, leave it there, that's the end of the transportation. Take it here and to Basse, at one center, leave it there, that's the end of the transportation. You spent $26 million on that. $27 million on transportation within this country, within the Gambia. Was it a 3-year program to be transporting every day, transporting item for $27 million? That needs to be looked at properly. Honorable Speaker, as far as we are here as Gambians, we need change. We need to change our attitudes. We need to see Gambia first. We need to see our people and help those people that need help. It's not capitalize on the issues because it is COVID time, let me do what I'm supposed to do. Let's give it to the people that need it. Let's give it on time, but not to keep it at home to say, yes, it is with me. For what now? For what? That $100 million, that worth of material is now for what? Where are you going to put it? Next minute, they will call to say, everything got spoiled. Let's find a way out. Let's change our attitudes. Thank you.
Thank you, member for Joshua. I now recognize the member for Brikama South.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. I equally want to salute the Fpac for taking the bold responsibility of carrying this report from the 5th legislature to the 6th legislature. And I really want to recognize the effort that is done for this thing to be tabled before us. Mine is going to be short, it's not going to be very long. First, especially, I want to lay emphasis on certain aspects of the report, particularly with regards to the recommendation you make. If they can be in a form of a resolution and attach a time to it, like the way you did with the issue of impress, and that really made a tremendous impact. Some of the recommendations might be a little bit difficult, but still we can pursue it in a form of resolution for us to adopt them. Particularly because if you look at the issue of the food item, that was the identification of the household and distribution, and especially the issuance of the coupons to these families was a nightmare. And some of us here face it in our respective constituencies, where we debated over this issue and spoke about a lot of criteria that could be factored in identifying and distribution of these food items. Our people are coming to us, knocking at our doors day and night. We are involving from center to center to make sure that they were attained. But if you look at it all over to a certain level, it has been seriously politicized, and this was a problem. And really we find it difficult, and that is why some were given with a lot of food items, some are without. To avoid that, in fact, during the debate, I laid this emphasis for us to use the councillors, because we, in our respective constituencies, we have councillors. We have the VDCs, we have the WRC. That the disaster and the chief, the governor, and the council can do the kind of monitoring to make sure that this is done. But even if you look at the response, especially with regards to the procurement of the food item in their response, which was very, very unfortunate that the auditors were not even given the selection criteria as at the time of auditing. So a lot of things, a lot of important areas have been flagged, especially with regards to the health and this other component. So I know I really want to thank the Fpac. You did an excellent job, and we want to tap you from behind. But the interesting part is, if you can look at it to come out, the recommendation can be in a form of resolution. You attach a timeline for us to look at it. Other than that, I want to thank everybody. Honorable Speaker, I want to take my seat.
Thank you, Member for Brikama South. I now give the floor to the member for Busumbala.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I believe we are talking about a time that was very difficult in this country. And due to that difficult nature, at that very moment, the government, didn't hesitate to dispose a huge amount of money to address the needs and sufferings of Gambian citizens. We thank the government for taking that decision. Honorable Speaker, it is unfortunate that some officials at that crucial time thought that this is a time of an opportunity to enrich themselves, having heard from the Fpac report. Honorable Speaker, we need to have a proper representation and equitable appointment of men with impeccable characters. When we do that, then we will minimize some of these corrupt practices, will minimize some of unethical issues in our public offices. I am saying this because there are laws that are laid down to regulate behavior of every officer. That's why you have a law dealing with the procurement. That's why you have a law dealing with financial regulations. If the Fpac report here indicate that those laws are not being followed by officials who are, who should follow that laws to make sure that they do greater justice to public funds, public entities, and public properties. If those laws are not complied, what should be done? So it should start from us here as people representatives. That's why I said we need to have a proper representation. You know, starting from the president, the president. You know, we have seen other countries when these COVID-19 funds were mismanaged, the stand was very stingy at the representation aspect. So this is what is expected, starting from the president down to National Assembly members. We are elected to represent the public. We are here to represent our electorates. These public officials are appointed to make sure that they do the things in line with the laid down rules and regulations of this country. So if they did it differently, you know, not in compliance with the law, I believe, honorable members, the law needs to take its course. And secondly, Honorable Speaker, $1.7 billion for the purchase of food and medical items. In this country, we should not be crying for a machine today that should be testing our drugs. We improvise. Yes, this is a COVID period, but that COVID period needs a situation wherein we should reflect what is our need base. You know, we don't have this machine. Why not we use the money to buy the machine so that we can test any drug that is coming in this country? Our failure of rationalizing as to what is our need lead us to even this acute problem. So hence the report has been led by the Fpac committee. I will second the suggestion made by Brikama South that let their recommendation come in a form of resolution so that we can adopt it and make sure that every penny, you know, regarding this COVID fund is accounted for. On that note, Honorable Speaker, I beg to take my seat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, member for Busumbala. I now invite the member for Lower Salom.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor, and thank you, the members of Fpac, for doing the expected thing from the committee. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I also like to restart my dissatisfaction on the issue of this report. Honorable Speaker, the issue of this COVID fund, the government of the Gambia make a declaration of the state of emergency where citizens should stay at home just not to spread COVID-19 disease to other members of committees. Again, in that regulations, the government promised the citizens to stay home and they will provide them food items for their various housing. Honorable Speaker, the government of the day, they have done their part. Cutting or making environments in various ministries, budget line, just to acknowledge their promises for citizens. But in that regard, Honorable Speaker, it's unfortunate our own brothers who are taxed to do things and they are not doing it right. Here we must hit the nail on the head. We cannot continue seeing this corruption, Honorable Speaker. And we are representing people. Today, the Gambians trust us and give us this seat to sit down. Today, if I was if I was not occupied in this one, I will lead a protest against this house, Honorable Speaker, because we cannot allow our own people who are taxed in offices entertaining corruption every day, and the National Assembly or in fact, this house cannot say anything. What they normally say, we will do it. We will go to the National Assembly, they will just say, talk and leave it like that. We must act, because we are representing people, Honorable Speaker. How many National Assembly are saying this corruption? Nobody can say this is not corruption. This is a naked corruption that you are seeing, Honorable Speaker. We can't leave it like this. We have to say it. We will say it, and nobody will stop us saying it, Honorable, because you are giving a tax. At the end of the day, you are not going with a due process of law. You're just doing the way you wanted to do it. And these people, Honorable Speaker, I will say, they have to go to the market, but in fact, they have to be shot to death. In other countries, if you are caught in corruption, you are killed. They should be even bold enough to go and resign from their offices, because these are taxpayers' money. How do you put it? This is unright, Honorable Speaker. How many millions of dollars is today go to the health facilities? There's no drugs. People are complaining, clean water. Even to drink a clean water, they don't have it. Just a minor people occupying an office, you are giving a fuel, putting on your ACs, you understand, and you are not doing what people are taxing you to do it. Resign, or you go there and kill yourself. The government should hold these people accountable, Honorable, because this pen is more serious than these war weapons. What they are doing, we cannot accept this, Honorable Speaker. Nobody can swallow this report, nobody. And they are sitting looking on us. At the end of the day, they will drive their vehicles back home and sleep the way they want it. We should not be. We cannot entertain corruption every day in our offices, because you are paid a salary, which you demand by even yourself, how much I'm going to pay. There are government who even, if they are going to eat, it's only one time in a day. But any kind of food that you want to eat, you will eat it. At the end of the day, you are making all these malpractices in the burden of citizens. Can we accept that? No, Honorable. I have to say the truth. Who are you there giving a supplier a huge amount of money without bringing that items? And the money is given to you. And still now again, when the members ask you, you said there are foodstuffs in the stores. And again, the stores are not even well prepared because of the report, the auditor general. And it's the same honorable member also who came here also. They said there are corruption in his ministry. We have seen it here. I myself, when CDA Jata was here, even honorable nominated member from Jawara, when we were asked to go to the Ministry of Health for this COVID, response, where the members will use, PAC microphone, something like that, to go and advocate for their constituencies. We went to the market. It was $3,000. but they are putting $11,000 paying. Honorable Speaker, I called the Honorable in front of them. I said they will mislead you. At the end of the day, you will fail. People will say you will fail. And now we have seen it here. If we want this government, this country to go forward, we have to remove these bad people in our society. I didn't say it. That's a word of God. Prophet said this thing. If bad people are in your midst, kill them. Yes. Because COVID was killing people. And it's the same people now who even kill people more than what COVID kills. Because you are giving a fund to go and give it to people. You keep that fund in you. And you ask people to stay in fact, to go and pray, in fact, it's a problem. Sometimes it is. And this money was given to you, and now you put it on your ACs, telling people, I am the one who is there. No, Honorable. Now we, the Parliament now, should take our responsibility to come with good resolutions. All of them to be prosecuted. After that, they are killed in that, how to call it, BANJUL Market Square. Because in other countries, if you are found of corruption, you are killed. Yes. Because we cannot, every year and then, when there was an emergency, you rescue people now. You are killing people. And you said you will be surviving. No. We have to go away with this, Honorable Speaker. Because in most auditor queries, they are not following the due process of law, but the GPPA laws. You are just doing that. I'll just do it. Nothing will come out of it. Now, let's take our responsibility. We are taxed. We have 1.8 million people down there. We are only 58 NAMs who are representing all these people. If we cannot do our job, let's all resign. Because we cannot see these corruptions in our public institutions. And we said, yes, do it as you want it. Now we as parliamentarians, we pass resolutions. Forthwith, they are all suspended from their offices. Let the IGB take his responsibility and investigate on their issues. Whoever found guilty, you are killed. You see where this corruption will stop. Honorable. You can't be taxing in office doing whatever you want to do. It's serious. And already the president taxed you to do something. Now the president is now he cannot be a parliamentarian. He cannot be a director. He cannot be only a president. But if you are coming to the president, tell him I'm doing the right thing with things that are unacceptable, Honorable. This is serious, Honorable Speaker. All the queries after the audit, audit findings, the single sources, emergency procurement, properly not followed. And there's a ceilings that you should follow. As long as you know there's an emergency, but that's a law. That's governing you and the people that you are helping. And in fact, you are taxed to do something. Do it right thing. What should you fear? Or even hesitate in doing things that are not all right. Today, where it is. Fanya Bukame. Do the right thing, Honorable. Honorable, say that I cannot accept this. For people doing these dubious things, and again, I come to a parliament and clapping for them, I will not do it. We are paying them the way I am paid by the taxpayers' monies. We every day drive our cars to home. Those people, in fact, who put on in these offices, if they want to come to BANJUL, they struggle to come to BANJUL. Even to get $25 is a problem to them. And in fact, we are taxed in this office. Let's do the right thing. If we cannot do it, let's all resign. Let them come and occupy this assembly. Because we can see billions of dollars are mishandled. Only them to empower themselves, building houses, you know, flying over the air, going with their girlfriends anywhere they want to. We will not do it, Honorable Speaker. We have to say the truth. We have to say the truth. We have seen this scandal when you buy a 14 Pro Max for your girlfriend. We have seen it here. No, Speaker, we have to say it. This is serious. And you are taxed in the office. All these findings, they were just doing it for the sake of, I am there. I am the director, or I am the minister, or I am this, or I am the PS. But you are not following the due process of the law. So you should be killed. Honorable Speaker. On that note, Honorable Speaker, I must thank the Fpac and the members also. Let's make a good resolutions against these people. Unless the IG, the Inspector of General of Police, to make investigation on this issue, and from a officer commission of inquiry. On the, from now against the 10 days, or from now against our adjournment debate, if it doesn't take any hawk, we will also come here again and say it on our adjournment debate. We can't see this thing going like this without no due process taken. And at the end of the day, you sit down there and say, these are just parliamentarians. They have to be talking. Let's take our responsibilities, what we are tasked to do. If we can, we all march out and leave these offices.
Thank you, Member for Lower Salum. May I now invite the Minority Leader and Member for Brikama North.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I would also want to join my colleagues to thank Fpac. Here, when I say Fpac, I mean the 5th Legislature Fpac. We owe it to them for having worked tirelessly to produce this report. In the person of Mariam Jack Denton, the chairperson then of the committee, Honorable Sidia S. Jata, Vice Chair, Honorable Cheba Kebaro, Member, Honorable Samba Jallo, Member, Honorable Alhaji Mbo, Member, Honorable Fatumata Njai, Member, Honorable Alhaji Sankun Jame, Member, and Honorable Yakumba Jaite, Member. These were the people who worked on the audit report to ably produce this report for this August Assembly. With the 6th Legislature Fpac, when we received the files of our predecessor, the consolidated report and then the COVID report, we found it deemed necessary not to allow this report to gather dust, that we will recommend that these reports are laid before the August Assembly, and subsequently the Assembly acted for the 5th Legislature pending reports to be carried over by the 6th Legislature so that we can do justice to this work. Honorable Speaker, our job as 6th Legislature Fpac, I will refer you to the concluding remark in the report, which reads, in conclusion, government should implement all the recommendations made by Fpac to avoid recurrence in future. I want to recommend amendment to this conclusion. My proposal for amendment reads, in conclusion, Fpac must ensure that government implements all the recommendations made by Fpac to avoid recurrence in the future. Here, Fpac will be involved to ensure that the recommendations are implemented. But if you simply say government should, it is left entirely with the government, and National Assembly is not involved to ensure who check to see that implementation is done. This is a recommendation to the presenter that I want to make to your report, that we involve Fpac to ensure that the government fully implement the recommendations that are embedded in the report. And I also, as suggested by the previous speakers, if we adopt this report, the Speaker will appeal that you suspend the sitting for at least an hour or 30 minutes or so. We develop, either way, a resolution to be supporting this report as action points. That is another recommendation, because the report did not come with resolutions. And what suggestions that are coming actually are very salient. We need to develop a resolution to be attached to the report to ensure the smooth implementation of the report. That's another proposal, the Honorable Vice Chair, that I want to suggest as well. As members suggested or indicated that that was what we did in the case of the consolidated report. And that resolution is actually helping us a lot in ensuring the implementation of that report. Honorable Speaker, it is because of this report I decided to come to the National Assembly, since I'm not feeling well, and then I consider this report very, very important, that I should be available to add my voice to what Fpac has reported. I believe in trying to act or implement this report will serve as a litmus test to the government to show commitment as how to combat and fight against corruption. It is very pertinent when we are in crisis. We need emergency fund to address emergency needs. People tend to divert those emergency funds to their emergency pockets. It's very pertinent. Action must be taken to put people to their rightful position. If you are in position of public trust, you need to think for the people, but you should not think for your selfish interests. It's very hard. As somebody said, when this crisis was going on, a lot of families were knocking our doors that they don't have these food items. They don't benefit from these food items. When it is allegedly reported that, yes, the items somewhere are available, but they were not distributed for whatever reason, one cannot just believe that. That is very hard and unbelievable. That a small country like the Gambia, an interrelated family like the Gambia, we can have that heart for each and every one. One cannot just believe it. We know the level of poverty in this country. Now people wear according to the regulations, asked to stay at home. They were not supposed to go out to do their other activities to earn income for their daily living. The food items that need to keep them at home were not also given to them. You ask them not to go to their markets to do their daily businesses so that they can return home with something to put on their plates. Somebody somewhere decided to keep that for whatever reason. Honorable Speaker, we need to get to the bottom of that. This matter cannot be put under the carpet. We have to dig and ensure justice is done to those families. Honorable Vice Chair, I must add that we thank your committee very well for this tremendous work that you have done. And honorable members, it is now our soul. If we thank the Fpac for the work, but if we fail to see the implementation of this work, there is no need to thank them. Nothing is done yet. The point where it is mentioned that within 10 days, this should happen, I believe that 10 days is yet to come. It starts to be based on after the implementation of the adoption of the report. Then that's the time we'll be counting. If you adopt this report today, within 10 days, those items that are said to be lying anywhere must come, or else the perpetrators will face the full force of the law. This is what it is implying. Not necessarily it should be available to Fpac prior to the laying, but after the adoption, effort must be made to ensure action is taken. Honorable Speaker, the report has also revealed violation of the GPPA Act for whatever reasons. I think this has something to do with the new GPPA Act that was recently adopted. If followed to the letter, would address those concerns, but of course would not address when people will just close their eyes blindly and then do whatever they feel like doing because they believe that nothing will come out of it. It is one thing to have the law, but it's another to implement. This law has been there, but it has not been followed, it has been ignored. Even whereas we have the law that can address it, I can tell you, those in position to ensure the enforcement of our laws, if you don't close your eyes and forget about whatever business you should have, whatever relation you should have, act on the law, our laws will be meaningless. Corruption, yes, we tend to believe is very high. And yes, we can only check it or fight it when we implement or execute our laws. It is not for the National Assembly. We are not the law enforcement officers. We only make the laws. Those who should enforce the laws, if you fail to enforce, you are the one who are aiding and abating corruption in this country. Honorable Speaker, there was a point in time here, this August Assembly, a particular committee received a petition from an institution on a matter that concerned the nation. We said we are not the appropriate body to investigate. The National Assembly does not investigate issue of fraud. We don't have that expertise. It's not our domain. We refer the matter to the police to ensure that they investigate the matter and give the report to the institution that is making the claim. The then Inspector General of Police was called upon to refer the case to them, but was trying to be very adamant and very incooperative to look into that said petition. But we stood our ground and put to them that you are given an ultimatum within this number of days. This report, instead of going to the petitioner, must come to this committee. You know what happened? Yes, people believe in their connections. All stakeholders where they feel are connected on the matter, they are all contacted. All those are close to ensure the investigation is prevented or compromised. I am not sure this particular case will face the same thing. If you believe you have connection, and if any authority is supposed to dig into this from now onwards, you are starting to do your connection, we are watching, your connection will not work. Your connection will not work. It will not work. Sit at your office and put your arms on your decks. Wait for whoever is supposed to come and investigate, and they will come and investigate. If you take a move, we'll see you, and you are going to be revealed. The CCTV is everywhere. Honorable Speaker, the food items that are stated to be distributed to poor people who were asked to stay at home, not to go to their businesses or farms. The amount involved here, one cannot believe that that should be somewhere or disappear to somewhere. Honorable Speaker, on that, the August Assembly, we are fully informed by all that the Fpac feel necessary that action should be taken as far as this report is concerned. Those actions are taken. And therefore, as I said earlier on, it is now our utmost responsibility to engage and involve the government apparatus to ensure justice is done to this report. And as I recommended earlier on, our technicians, the legal team, can guide us to come up with a resolution for the implementation of this report. I don't know how it is going to look like, whether before the adoption of the report or after the adoption of the report. But the suggestion that was advanced by the previous speakers that we need a resolution, I think is necessary. It is the resolution attached to the consolidated report that is helping us to ensure the implementation of the report. Henceforth, we will also need a resolution to be attached to this report. On that note, I thank you.
Thank you, Minority Leader and Member for Brikama North. I think your proposal there was a precedent. I remember the report that you referred to. What could be done is, after the adoption of this report, you can prepare and probably come next week with the resolution. Thank you. Now I call on the member for Kiang East.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me begin by acknowledging the good work done by Fpac during the 5th legislature, and also the National Audit Office. It appears that they have committed a lot of their time to make sure that they produce a report of this caliber. It's well written, and the language is clearly understood by everybody who take the trouble of reading this report. Honorable Speaker, this audit report reveals certain facts about Gambian public officers. First of all, it reveals corruption in our public institutions, lapses in our procurement process, and the government's lack of interest to make sure that they respond well to all the queries that are in this report. Honorable Speaker, COVID, when it struck, it took everybody unawares. Everywhere in the world, developed and developing countries, nobody was prepared for it. So in cases of such emergencies, I think the government should come up clearly to try and salvage the population. And in all honesty, the government did that. They responded appropriately and on time. They mobilized resources to try to lessen or to contain and lessen the impacts of COVID. We know that when COVID struck, it came with death. People died of COVID. It brought in its wake ill health. It brought economic activities to its knees. People were advised to stay indoors for fear of spreading COVID in the population. And as a result of that advice, economic activity was severely affected. People could not go to work. Markets were closed. Even lumos were closed during that economic. And these were periods, or these were times when people would go out to find food for the family. All those activities were stopped. Government knew that the impact was serious. COVID was very serious when it came. So therefore, the government quickly mobilized resources to try to deal with the situation. But what happened, unfortunately, was that people took advantage of the suffering of the population to embezzle, to steal, to defraud the population. this is what happened, because the report clearly indicates the lapses in procurement, the lapses in distribution and storage of all the resources that are committed to COVID. This is serious. You know, you cannot imagine. People are suffering, and you want to take that opportunity to enrich yourselves. This shouldn't have happened. And this is why I entirely agree with previous speakers who said that Fpac should come up with resolutions. Of course, I agree with that. And I want the Fpac to look at the report again, extract all the recommendations in the report, compile them, and then maybe perhaps bring them back so that we look at it and pass a resolution that all those recommendations be properly taken care of. I think in the Gambia here, we need to change our attitude. We have serious attitudinal problems. And if the general population is acting in a manner that does not help the development of the country, no matter what the government does, things are not going to work. We need to be serious. We need to take our responsibility seriously. When you are in public office, you are not occupying that office for your personal interest. In fact, the truth is that one person's welfare is not necessarily the welfare of the entire people or entire nation. But you must also understand that when the entire nation, the welfare of the entire nation will not exclude you as an individual. So, in public office, let us try and work very seriously, very hard to promote the welfare of the general population instead of our own personal welfare. This has been the problem in this country. I think we need attitudinal change. Of course, we have to blame the government, because if people are doing all these things and the government sits by and watch from the distance without taking any action, this is going to continue. And I want to advise the government to take serious stance against corruption. Otherwise, it is going to continue. Honorable Speaker, I don't intend to make my speech long because all the points I have noted, I want to talk about them, have all been raised, and I don't want to repeat things that have been said over and over again. I would just once again advise Fpac to try and extract the report, as I said earlier, to extract all the recommendations from the report, compile them, and bring them just as we did with the other reports. However, I think this is just the first phase of the report. The second phase is coming because it clearly states that phase 1 of the report, phase 2 is coming. So maybe the mover of the motion can respond to that, whether we are going to provide these solutions now, or we are going to wait until the phase 2 reports, because I think these two things are closely connected. It appears to me that the second phase is going to be a continuation of this one. And I think maybe we may not want to have a break between these two. But anyway, the mover of the motion will respond appropriately to that. On that note, I want to take my seat, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Member for Kiang East. I now recognize the member for Banjul Central.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. I think it wouldn't do justice to this particular topic today without giving in our few comments with regards to the document at hand here today. I will first of all like to thank the Fpac committee for coming up with I would say a very brilliant summary of what transpired or the transactions rather that transpired during the COVID-19 period. I would just like to say that as a National Assembly, we are the watchdog of public coffers, I would say, of the public coffers. We are not mandated to spend money on behalf of the public, but we are mandated to be the distributive entity that goes a long way in making cuts necessary to give to these different sectorial spaces to make sure that value for money is done. It's also distressing to know that during times of distress, some people do see opportunities in them. Because I know in issues like this, based on the different partisan orientations we might come from, it's a little bit uneasy to speak on issues like this, but I don't think we will do justice to our electorates when something of this nature comes up and we do not speak on it. Because I think anything that has to do with money and where it's tax-driven, which are paid by the populace, I think this should be a matter of concern to each and every parliamentarian here. On the document, we've seen some few things here. Most have been already delved in. We've seen that there's been a lack of transparency on contractual awardings, non-compliance of procurement regulations, among other things. So if we are to check 1.1 on the document. Sorry for taking time. Yeah. Okay. Under the needs assessment, I think these things are quite alarming because we've seen here 832 million based on items to be procured in terms of rice, sugar, and oil. And that here is saying that the total that was to be procured was 264,500, another 264,500 for sugar, and 170,200, that's for oil. And if you go to the quantity that was procured, actually, here you are having 279,500 for sugar, and then you have 185,200 for oil. So here we are having a deficit of 15,000 each. So we wonder where those monies went to. So needs assessment wasn't really looked into. And also, I think this document, Honorable Speaker, really shows that the audit query that was done around April was very factual, actually, because there was a concern from the ministry that they mentioned their dismay, I may say, with regards to the query that $500 million of unapproved payments were missing. And this, I think, this document has proof that, that those queries to be very factual, Honorable Speaker. If we go to 2.5, that's page 12 of the document. Here is saying payments made for food items were not delivered. That the NAO noted that the oil was short off by 53,791, that's 10-liter gallons, and had a value of $37,653,700. And these are all monies that are not accounted for. And also a total of undelivered commodities amounting to over $100 million we are not accounted for as well. So these are astronomical figures that are missing. With regards to the COVID organics as well, their usefulness wasn't, like we say again, there wasn't any needs assessment towards it. And it's been a wastage of public resources, I might say. If we go to page 14 as well, Honorable Speaker, failure to perform performance needs assessment and specifications. Here it's saying also that the procurements of medical items amounting to 1,223,232,642 were made without a proper needs assessment, and that is saying the Minister of Health could not be sure of the usefulness of some medical items in fighting the pandemic. So these are all wastage of public resources from our own hard-earned money and taxpayers' money, Honorable Speaker. So just to cut things short, Honorable Speaker, these are alarming figures, and I think this should concern each and every parliamentarian here, because I think we've been sent here to be custodians of our monetary items. And these fiscal lapses really needs to shows us, I would say, that we really need to tighten our belts in making sure implementative processes are put through, Honorable Speaker. I once said it here, I think there is a great Gambian heist going on, and I think this unveiling has also reaffirmed what I was saying on these chambers. These things are daylight robberies that are evident, because I will just take an example of transparency. During the COVID period, I was among the CSOs in BANJUL. We have a BANJUL Youth Committee. Under their leadership, all the civil society organizations and groups in BANJUL fostered in union. We formed an alliance, and we went to the city council to render ourselves as to how can we help during these periods. So we were given the required items needed, and we voluntarily facilitated to make sure each and every household, I was part of those that were going around within the BANJUL area to make sure we made needs assessment. We knock on each and every door, day and night, to make sure nobody is left behind, right? And after that, when the resources were availed, when the rice came and the oils and everything, we have pictorial evidences of first-hand information that we partake in this drive to make sure each and every household that was registered and everyone that was documented had a share of the portion of the items that were available. And after that, we didn't stop there. We made a detailed report of every transaction made, with financial transactions made, but also a detailed report of everything that transpired within that period, and we presented it to the BANJUL City Council. So if a civil society organization of young people, young, vibrant, diligent people, we are able to make reports, proper reports like this, I don't know what's becoming of our public officials, Honorable Speaker. And it's unfortunate, Honorable Speaker, we always, the Honorable Member for Upper Salum made mention here that year in, year out, we would sit here and make budgetary cuts and allocate it to different sectors to improve their fiscal viabilities. But I would just give a scenario of how the Gambia is currently. We are a leaking container, I would say, because it's like we will pour money to these different domains, and they'll be leaking down. So it's like there's no value for money. It's the reality, and sorry for saying. Sometimes in situations like this, why I say we cannot keep silent in these things, Honorable Speaker, is sometimes we would be questioned for the things we say, but also we will be questioned for our silence as well. And sometimes silence do mean consent. So I think in situations like this, we should, as parliamentarians, amplify our voices to make it known to everyone that we were brought here by our electorates, and our electorates are our bosses and nothing else. And we should stand firm on that. Honorable Speaker, someone made it mention here that we have a document that's lingering in our chambers here, which is the anti-corruption bill. And personally, I will never feel, or I will never find the government serious if this bill is not passed. Because if this bill is passed, to be honest, we give the devil its due. There's been very good policies set through the access to information bill was put through, and many other policies that are put through that are really very progressive, I would say. But if we are really serious about changing the narrative of the Gambia, I think we really need to look at the anti-corruption bill. I think this document will really help in curbing corruption. Corruption can never be eradicated, but at least you can put in stringent measures that can really curb them. And once corruption is curbed, then we can be able to know where our monies are going, and then value for money can be seen, Honorable Speaker. Finally, with regards to the recommendations, Honorable Speaker, I think we all know the entities that we are involved. This is not rocket science. This is not like a hit and run, like someone just bumps into a place, you know, and then takes whatever that's available to them, or take whatever that's within their midst and just run off, and you'll be questioning who is it, who is it, who is it. No. These people, these perpetrators that are doing these things are within our midst, and even some of us know them, hands-on. This is not rocket science. It's there, it's evident for everyone to see. So now the question is, are we bold enough to make these implementations? That's the main question, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it's really emotional because we tend to mention corruption, corruption, corruption. But if you leave these chambers and you start walking down the street and you meet the banana seller on the street, you go further, you meet the granite seller on the street, a woman, very poor. Do we sit and imagine how many customers she will have in a single day? It's unimaginable. Sometimes I would pass them and I would question myself, how do these people survive in these conditions? How do they survive? How do they do it? I think as a National Assembly members, we usually go and perform oversight in these PEs. But we should sometimes go down and ask them, how do they really live? It really concerns me. I just don't know how they do it. Because sometimes they would come and beg. They would ask for monetary assistance. And even the monies that they ask are not even fit to feed a single person. So one would question, how do these people survive on a daily basis? I think these are lines that we really need to be looking through. And what corruption does is, you are defrauding the market vendor, you are defrauding the banana seller, you are defrauding the coconut seller, you are defrauding the lowest person in these communities. That's how serious this is. And it's evident. We know how these processes go. It's within our eyes. But what are we doing about these things? Someone made mention here that we perform oversight and we make recommendations. Yes, that's true. But are we ready to make brutal oversight over every single aspect of where our monies are going? That's the only question I have for these chambers. Are we ready to be bold enough to put away partisan lines, to put away personal lines, to put away, how do I call it, nepotism and all those things, and just look at the Gambia as a country and make sure we do due diligence to the mandated things that we were given to make sure we take this country from where it is and take it to somewhere that everybody wants to see. I don't want to be sarcastic, but there's a saying that in Europe, if someone does corruption, they resign. And it's evident, they resign. It's a funny quote, actually. And they said in Asia, they hang themselves, I think. But they said in Africa, we present ourselves for elections. That's what we do. It's the reality, right? So as a chamber, if we do not do our work properly, those same people will come here and present themselves for elections, and they'll be in these chambers and be part of promoting more corruption in this country. And I don't think any of us want that, Honorable Speaker. So it's left for us to make sure that we do what's best to curb these situations. So I just wanted to make a contribution for us to make at least take this issue seriously. Anything that has to do with monetary engagements that has to do with our country coffers, every single National Assembly member must be looking into these things firmly without looking at anybody's eyes, because that's what we were brought here for. We are not brought here just to speak when it's convenient. No. Sometimes we have to speak the truth. That's how people will respect us. We have to speak truth. And it doesn't necessarily mean like we hate each other, no. But we are here for a common interest, which is what? Taking the Gambia somewhere. So on that note, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member for Banjul Central. I now recognize nominated Member Fatou K. Jawara to take the floor.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. I was not feeling well and I didn't want to take the floor, but it will be so insincere for me to go through this report without doing any contribution. Honorable Speaker, the Fifth Legislature has done their part, and this is their legacy. But moving from commitment to action lies on the hand of this Sixth Legislature. And I think we should now move from commitment to action. Honorable Speaker, going through the report, page 6, and if you permit, I may read. When the Gambia registered its first case on the 17th of March 2020, this is the speech made by the President on the 26th of April 2020. The President of the Republic of the Gambia made a commitment that through the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs, they will put aside 734 million environment from debt relief towards food support for the citizenry. Additional environment were subsequently made, bringing total environment to approximately 1 billion. The government recognized recognized that the Gambian deserve an urgent national response to both the health and socio-economic crisis resulting from losses in productivity and remittance to the Gambian household. The government promised to ensure that support is provided to all citizens, especially the vulnerable. Honorable Speaker, this shows how serious this government is. But after listening to the report, or after going through the report, when I heard that the NDMA have still got some rice in their stuff, I am very disappointed. I am very disappointed because I am part of the National Assembly members who first buy detergents and water tanks and put it in my constituency, mosques, markets, public places, and even police stations. But I keep going after NDMA to help people with this relief package. But the purpose was defeated. This was given to councillors who were political appointees. No single National Assembly member was engaged. And these National Assembly members are the ones who stay here during the COVID-19. They were exposed to all kinds of sickness. Some even got COVID and they were treating themselves secretly. But the way they did this thing is unacceptable. NDMA handpick some people and go with them. They leave National Assembly members aside, and they didn't provide the statistics. The vulnerable people didn't benefit from this. They are dancing and whining with their favorite councillors and their favorite MPs. I went to the NDMA office for several times to map out the vulnerable people in my constituency who are supposed to get this. But guess what? They are just giving me false excuses, and now they are saying that they have this in their office. What kind of ill-hearted citizens are these? Are they helping the government? We cannot allow this. It's unacceptable. An act of certain individual in the system cannot be revisited in our government. We fought in our sweat and blood to dislodge the tyrant and form this government. So it's enough is enough. If you don't want to work for the government, go out and allow eminent personalities to come in. Honorable Speaker, going through the report, page 7, where unconfirmed business registration and potential tax evasion. How can you even give a registered business partner to be part of this COVID environment? This is so scary. And they call themselves Gambians. Honorable Speaker, is this the type of the country that we wanted to be? And this is, and are these the kind of people that we expect to help us to move this country forward? After 22 years of economic hardship, miming, raping, illegal disappearance, among others, now Gambians say that they are free from that. But yet still, we have Gambian versus Gambians. Where are we? Honorable Speaker, going to the two recommendations by Fpac. The single sourcing of 15% contingency fund, Honorable Speaker. This report also highlights that payments amounting to 116 million were made to the supplier by the contract committee using a single source procurement method without obtaining approval from the GPPA. This single source procurement method should only be used in exceptional circumstances and can only be done after seeking formal approval from the GPPA. There was a violation of GPPA regulation. Honorable Speaker, those who negligent this fall should be brought to justice. We cannot allow perpetrators to be walking scot-free and the vulnerable Gambians continue to be crying all day. Honorable Speaker, going through the second recommendation, also stated that the relevant GPPA approval must be sought for all single-source procurement. The Fpac informed the NDMA that this section they are quoting apply to funds within their control and not the COVID fund. This is clearly stipulated. It's clearly stipulated, and every department have a procurement specialist. But why are they communicating to the public? The procurement specialists should come and communicate to the public before even the audit report haunt them. Honorable Speaker, when you came to the buying of medical equipment also, there is a serious corruption going on there. You go to Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital. They don't even have a truck to dispose their waste. So there is a illegal waste disposal. Instead of curing somebody, somebody is affected with sickness because they don't have the truck. They just get these pails to throw them out. So I think that one also needs to be looked into. When they are buying equipment, they should buy equipment that will that parts are available in the country here. You go to Serekunda General Hospital, they don't have X-ray machine. You go to Bundung, the same issue. So I think, Honorable Speaker, in short, this is my submission, and I beg to take my seat.
Thank you, nominated member Fatou K. Jawara. I now recognize the member for Bundung Kakunda to take the floor, please.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. First of all, I want to also join my colleagues to thank the 5th Legislature, the Fpac Committee, for coming up with this clear and sincere report, which I think will give us an information for us to be able to make a decision that will be in the interest of the whole entire Gambian people. Thank God, this COVID-19 report is before me as a National Assembly member, but I used to be a councillor. So basically, I can talk about this and how everything was done. Basically, in the area of need assessment was not done. It's true. At my level, at the level of the World Development Committee, when we got the information and that we supposed to have this rice for distribution to vulnerable families. But during the COVID, we were all vulnerable. I don't think there is anybody who is not vulnerable because of the COVID, the pandemic. So we had to go and look for money at our local level to pay for people to go and collect data. And that money could give us a standpipe, but we deny a neighborhood from that. So after seeing all these things, because for me, I don't have to go to so many places because the recommendations and everything is, and this document should be public so that people can know and see everything. That is the 51,133 rice, which was not delivered, 36,000, which was not delivered, sugar and oil. This is a broad daylight robbery. And I don't think we should accept this. Honorable member for Lower Salem was saying killing. We don't have to, we cannot kill. But it's good that, we expose all these people. If possible, I think when they, at least people can learn from that. You see, we are members of the parliament. And I must commend the government of the Gambia because when I saw the thing on Facebook, I wrote, "Thank you very much, President Barrow and your government for your timely intervention," which I appreciated very well. And even when I did that, some people at that time were attacking me. They said I shouldn't do that. But at that time, I was in opposition. But you see, whatever we do, we must collaborate and appreciate. Whatever good somebody does, we appreciate it. Because at the end of the day, we are all here for the development of our people that we represent. This is why when ministers come here, we all ask them based on our individual question concerning our communities. So for that being the case, government has done what they're supposed to do, but it was given to institutions or agencies to take care of this thing. So those people who should do this, they fail the Gambian people, to be frankly speaking. Because at our community level, just to show you how we work, Honorable nominated member was saying, but councillors are different. For us, auditors came to our office and they audit us. And I have all the files. In fact, the amount of household that was registered in Bundung 6 Johnson Ward was 2,702 households. Then the number of individuals benefited based on the total number of households per household is 20,642 individuals. And based on this, when we did all these things, it's on record. When you go to KMC, you'll have the record. A letter from Bundung 6 Johnson reads, "I hereby forward the list of households of Bundung 6 Johnson Ward for COVID-19 government food relief. Attached is the list of 91 pages comprising of 2,702 households and 20,642 individuals. Yours sincerely, Honorable Suleiman Jami, Councillor." I think we did what we're supposed to do. So if we did all these things, and at the end of it, those people up there, they just want to see us as maybe they can do anything. And people were not paid to do all this service, but we were just doing it to at least, satisfy our people. So you cannot be working for the government. Government give you everything. At the end of the day, whatever comes, you want to take your own. We cannot live like that. Any of us, we are all, whether we are in the government, we are not in the government, but at the end of the day, we all belong to the same Gambia, and I think we all want to see Gambia flourish at the highest level. So how can we do this? We must have to accept the realities. What is given to you, take it as your own, but something that is going to people or what that is not meant for you, please, let's leave it. So this is why we're talking about corruption. For me, I see corruption as deliberate because it's an act. Buy 10 bags of rice, you just go and they give you the actual amount. You go and buy 5. What is the meaning of that? So can we live that? Can we live in that manner as a country? It's not possible.
So, and going forward, we are politicians, we are representing our people, but outside this chamber, people blame us. Sometimes they say the assembly members are there just for their pockets. For me, I don't accept that. And in fact, I don't entertain that from anybody. I am here, the first day I came here, I swore to the Quran that I will execute my duty without fear or favor. I will try that. I know I'm not 100% perfect, but I will try that. So, and I expect all of us to do the same. So we cannot be here representing our people and we are not spending money. People blame us and they don't blame the agencies that we give the money to. Because they normally bring their budgets here and we approve it. Everything was done. This COVID you are talking about, you did everything during the 5th legislature. You did what you're supposed to do and give it to them for them to execute. But it was not done properly. So what should we do? Now, being a member of an Fpac committee for the 6th legislature, this is a commitment, even if at all it's my own family. If you are found wanting, the law has to take its course. This is the only way we can move as a country. So the resolution, we have to come with a resolution as we did for the Impress, is a precedence. So let's continue the precedence and ensure that, at least we have a better country and a better Gambia. So this is not about witch hunting or whatever. We appoint you guys, or, people are appointed in this position because they have the expertise and the knowledge and the know-how. So if it is given to you, please execute your function and duties at the best of your ability, wherein we need to look at the ordinary people that we are there, because this 51,000, if you should value that to money, that can dig almost about nearly 10 boreholes or more than that. And still we have people at the rural areas, they are still crying for clean drinking water, even within Greater Banjul area. Even where I come from, still we are struggling to have water. So should we live like that? And others, few people will take the money and spend it. And the same people, they don't even want to connect with the local people. They don't just want to connect with them. They always create very big gap. So at the end of the day, when you have the opportunity to spend, or there is an emergency or crisis, you want to use that as an opportunity. Please, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member for Bunno Kakunda. Now I invite the member for Fonyi Bintang Karanai to take the floor.
Thank you so very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. Special thanks goes to the committee of Fpac for standing up for justice and for not allowing corruption to ruin them. They deserve my thank, and the Vice Chair, you also deserve my thank for laying the report. I wanted to remain silent, but because of what the issue is about, I cannot remain silent because it's a very serious matter. And for the fact that I am against corruption, like I said initially, that let the government fight corruption, they have the best government, and let them turn a blind eye towards corruption, they have the worst of government, to start with. My first suggestion is these people that are found wanting should be under suspension while the investigation go on. The other thing is, like all other members, the member for Lower Salem, Kiang West, Kiang East, the minority leader, all the members have the duty. Member for Yundum, Busumbala, they clearly state as it is. Here we are. As I always say, if you are a member that begs for relationship or support or whatever, it is time to liberate our country, and we can do it better. Corruption is killing us more than COVID-19 is killing us. Corruption is killing us more than malaria is killing us. Corruption is killing us more than HIV and AIDS. Corruption is killing us day in, day out. Special attention, I want us to draw special attention towards the Ministry of Health. What is happening in the Ministry of Health? Go to Brikama and see what is happening there, specifically. Around 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. Are we happy with those conditions? This COVID-19 issue is a moment where Gambians were crying, where people were sitting at home against their wish. I think it is time for the National Assembly to set an example that the people will learn from. Those democracy means people should involve into corruption. Those democracy means we'll be celebrating corruptors, those that corrupt, and nepotism. I can remember the former president clearly said, I have no loss for my family and no other loss for the nation. I have equal loss for everybody. I wish the National Assembly also practiced the same thing, and I believe we are going to practice because of the statement that came from the National Assembly members. For those that corrupt, they don't deserve to live because they are killing us more than anything. Enough is enough. We should try by all means and set an example for the first time so that everybody will learn from it. You build a relationship like the minority leader clearly states. Here, once we agree onto this, they will be running helter-skelter, whom to see and whom to connect to. And I wish we will cut all the routes that they will be connecting to. We are going to cut everything. We set an example for others to learn from. That it is time for the nation to mean business. With anti-corruption bill is yet to be here. We anticipate that it will come, but then we are yet to see it. But we can start with these people as a setup to start, so that everybody will learn from it. I am with agreement with all what is stated, but we can only set down the policies. Who should carry out that government policy? We are the organ of the state that will set policies, make laws, but it is the sole responsibility of the executive to carry out government policies. Now the government should make sure that they carry out the policy. And here we are, the Fpac committee. I want all other committees to emulate you, because you have shown us who you are. You have shown us that Gambians can rely on you. You have shown us that you are the true sons of this country. And you have shown us that it is time for business. Nepotism must come to an end, and corruption must come to an end. And for COVID-19, if you eat the money, you have to vomit it out. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, member for Fonyi Bintang Karanai. I now recognize the member for Ilyasa constituency to please take the floor.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. Honorable Speaker, I want to join my colleagues to sincerely thank Fpac for the brilliant job. Honorable Speaker, I also want to recognize the effort of the government for coming up with this brilliant idea to support its people during the difficult time. Again, Honorable Speaker, it is rather unfortunate. By looking at the report before us here, there were so many malpractices during procurement and distribution process, which definitely should not happen in the country here. We should be sincere enough when you are giving the responsibility. You are serving your own people. Try to be sincere to make sure that you serve them as expected. But to behave in such a manner is really disappointing. Honorable Speaker, by looking at the food items here, definitely the quantity procured and the quantity not delivered to households, definitely there is a vast difference here. And it's really disappointing to see such a huge amount of items missing. I will also definitely want to join my colleagues to make sure justice prevails as far as this matter is concerned. And that justice must prevail, I think this depends on the sixth legislature to make sure we serve our people to the best of our ability, to make sure that we try and discourage such actions in the country. Honorable Speaker, all I want here is justice to prevail as far as this matter is concerned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, member for Ilyasa constituency. I now give the floor to the member for Sabah Sanjal.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I also want to join my honorable colleagues to put my blessing on this report that is before us. Also want to join my colleagues to thank the Fpac committee for a job well done. They have done what is expected of them. Honorable Speaker, COVID-19 is a big problem in the world. And I can remember when I was recalled from duties whilst I was in Senegal, that because of a pandemic, we have to return back home and cancel all duties. Honorable Speaker, it is very sad indeed. Public funds that were expected to ease at least the situations in which we find ourselves during the COVID-19 pandemic. But first, I will have to say intention and realities are two different things. The intention that government had to disburse these funds was to help families and to help family members who in one way or the other were affected by the COVID-19 pandemics. But those intentions, according to the report that we have today, is not a reality. Reason being, the funds that were supposed to help Gambians were being mismanaged by certain individuals. And this could have gone a long way in helping families who were affected by the pandemic. Honorable Speaker, 22,669,000 disbursed without no supporting documents, such as payment vouchers, such as receipts, such as delivery notes. It means the government initially had good intention towards families that are affected. But because of certain individuals, those intentions did not come to be realized. Honorable Speaker, the whole thing is just sad. And I think time has come for what needs to be done to be done. We have to limit talking too much, and we start what? Being seen as people who are action-oriented. We have clear evidence of certain mismanagement of funds that are clearly shown by this report. For God and heaven's sake, and for the benefit of Gambian peoples, can't we just use this report to come up with a very good resolution, which would definitely be a change and change for the better? Honorable Speaker, if we gather funding and we have good intentions towards developing these nations, approve those fundings for certain individuals to implement those fundings. But what do? They end up mismanaging it. At the end of the day, the blame comes back to everybody. When we talk about government, we have to remember it's all inclusive. We are all part of government. But because of certain individuals, the blame would be what? Cross-cutting. Most of the members here did not even benefit from these COVID-19 funds. But today, if the blame comes, it is cross-cutting. It goes to everyone. And we did not benefit from it. Let's look at it this way. If a compound owner should be traveling to, let's say, outside the country, giving fish money to some individual who should make sure that he feeds the family, the compound owner had a very good intention by handing over such an amount of money to that individual to make sure you take care of that family that he is leaving behind. But because of your own personal interest, you use it for your own benefits, leaving the family members. This is exactly what we are facing, Honorable Speaker. And that is why I began by saying intentions and realities are two different things. International organizations have donated a lot of money to the Gambia. The government of the Gambia took it upon themselves to redirect certain fundings that were supposed to be used to solve certain difficulties that we might face in the future. They redirected them to solve this issue of the pandemic. But is that not a good intention? Having received such an amount of money from international bodies, from the government of the Gambia, this was a very good intention. But look at where we are ending up today. Honorable Speaker, it's very sad. And we can keep on talking on this report. There are so many malpractices. $2 million just to transport 4 boxes of herbal medicines, which Madagascar claimed to have given as donation for free to all countries who needed it. 4 boxes from Guinea-Bissau to the Gambia. You said you have spent $2 million just to transport 4 boxes, which are still in storage, which are still not used. Honorable Speaker, it's just sad. I don't want to keep on talking on this. I humbly submit, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member for Sabasanjal. I now give the floor to the member for Nyani.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I first of all want to join my colleagues to thank the Fpac for that wonderful work and also the recommendations that they made regarding this COVID-19. First of all, also want to thank the government of the Gambia for coming up with that good intention. But sometimes what disturbs people is when it comes to implementation. The government can come up with a very clear consent, very good intention, but when it comes to implementation, that's where everything have a problem. If you look at what is captured in the report, procuring without GPP approval, that's the first place where corruption started. Disbursement of resources without supporting documents is also another way and mode of corruption. As I always said here, we have to be honest to ourselves and have this country at heart. But if 10 people are digging a hole and we have another 20 that are burying, we will stay there forever, but we shall never have a hole. When we talk about corruption, corruption will never tell you, come and take me, we move along. No. We are the ones who involved in this act. And sometimes these are moments that people are in dilemma. If you look at the COVID-19, the response to the COVID-19, the funds allocated for the COVID-19, anyone who have the intention to misuse that particular amount, I can tell you that you can even eat a raw human being. These are some of the things that you know that we urging the Gambia government to go by the Fpac recommendations so as to limit corruption and also come up with preventive methods so that next time when such things like this happen, it will never be repeated by those people. I quote from a write-up that says, stop corruption please. It is a contagious disease that did not only affect the person, but also the whole nation. Corruption is like a cancer, spreading from one part to another, and its movement is very fast. That almost nothing left to be done at last. The apparent patrols, like the scared birds, fly away to the distant land in search of a secure and a better life indeed. If anyone dares to stand against corruption, the one suffering from the very pollution, throw him in the jail or bury under the soil. As the sunset let the dawns to appear, we should let our dreams expire. Since the expected moment isn't far away, only you and I can bring that day end. So therefore, it's only the National Assembly members that can bring end to corruption. On that note, I thank you for giving me the floor.
Thank you, Member for Nyani. I now invite the member for Opanyomi and Chief.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. Honorable Speaker, I also want to seize this opportunity to profusely thank Fpac Committee for the wonderful job. And I also want to give my colleagues as well to thank the government for having the good intention of alleviating the suffering of the Gambian people. But unfortunately, in law we call it conversion. Like, you have a clear intention of doing something, somebody happens to do it somehow, wrongly somewhere. Very bad. Honorable Speaker, we have to change our attitude as Gambians if we want this country to move forward. And without that, we are nowhere. Honorable Speaker, it's because of corruption since 1965. This country cannot attain self-food sufficiency. And it's because of corruption we don't have high qualified doctors in all areas of elements in our hospitals and our health facilities. We don't have machines, the equipment to carry out the job. It's because of corruption. Honorable Speaker, our roads are still in the same state since 1965. It's because of corruption. Gambian people are going through the back way. So corruption kills, as it was said by the previous speakers. Honorable Speaker, corruption harms man and the society more than the cancer in the body, as it was said by Honorable Member for Nyani. So I think it's a concerted effort for all of us to come together and fight against corruption, without which we are nowhere. Honorable Speaker, on that few remarks, I think I don't have to take the assembly that too long. I humbly submit. Thank you so much for giving me the floor.
Thank you very much, Member for Opanyomi. May I now call upon the mover to respond to the issues raised and to wind up the debate.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I think generally members actually have accepted our recommendations. But I need to make a few clarifications on the transport of the COVID from Madagascar. The amount being quoted in the auditor report is actually a chartered flight from Madagascar, which was organized by the President of Guinea-Bissau. So it's a chartered flight, and the cost of the chartered flight was shared by Gambia, Senegal, and Guinea-Bissau. It is not a cost from Guinea-Bissau to Gambia. That's impossible. So it was a charter flight that was arranged by the President of Guinea-Bissau to bring the COVID organs that was donated by the President of Madagascar to all or most African countries. And Gambia's share, together with Senegal and Guinea-Bissau, was put on a chartered flight. At that time, most of the flights that were traveling, especially commercial flights, were grounded. There was no other way that the COVID organ could get to the Gambia without a chartered flight. So just to let you know that it was not meant for a transport cost from Guinea-Bissau to the Gambia, but it was the portion of the cost for Gambia to have the charter flight to bring the COVID organs. Now, also it's also important to take note that the COVID-19 organic not being useful, that is not a statement from the committee. We were just quoting from what the auditor actually said. But in actual fact, there is no scientific confirmation that it wasn't useful. So let's leave it at that. So it wasn't something that's not very useful, because these are traditional medicines. And I think the African Union actually is promoting this traditional medicine to be incorporated into our laws across the continent. The other one is about the resolutions. I think, yes, we can come up with a resolution, but we have already made a recommendation for the people that are responsible for those wastage to ensure that they pay up within 10 days. Also, it is also important to note that there's also another report. Phase 2 of the report actually is going to be submitted these days. So it's two things we can do. We can come up with a resolution now, from now until next week. We can present it just like what we have done before. But I know to make a resolution today, right now at this point in time, is going to be almost impossible, because we have to take time and work with the Secretariat or the Office of the Clerk to help us do that. So I don't think we'll be able to make a resolution today. So I would suggest, if you want to go for the resolution, you give us time to work with the Office of the Clerk, and then we come up with something by next week and present it to the body, and so that we vote on that. Or alternatively, we can wait until we deal with the second one and then come up with a comprehensive resolution on the entire COVID report. So we can do that as well. So these are the two options we have, but I don't think it's going to be really very prudent for us to come up with that right now. Then another area I wanted to talk about is the issue of the anti-corruption bill that was before us here. And I think I'm going to say it also again. I don't want to say for the last time, but I keep saying this on the radio and on the newspapers. The Parliament actually has done what they're supposed to do as far as the bill is concerned. It was submitted. We made a recommendation for it to be referred to Fpac. We dealt with it. We presented a report. The report was adopted with amendments. And now the next stage was for the Assembly of the whole House to consider clause by clause. But then the end of the 5th legislature actually ended. Now, we made a motion during I think in May, where ministers that have interest in the continuation of their activities, they should come back to the Parliament and make a motion. So the Minister of Justice is aware. So the Parliament, as far as we are concerned, we cannot move any further until they come back to make a motion of the continuation of the process of the anti-corruption, or either way they stop it completely and come back with a new one. So as far as the Parliament is concerned, we have done what we are supposed to do, and there's nothing we can do right now as far as the bill is concerned. So I'm aware that the Minister for Justice has been scheduled for next week, December 20th, to come and make a motion. What the motion is going to be, I do not know, but he has the opportunity to reactivate from where we ended so that we continue, or to withdraw it completely and bring a new one. So that's up to him to do that. But as far as we are concerned, we have done our part on the anti-corruption. I think those are the main issues we have that were actually highlighted in those areas. Otherwise, there is nothing else that we needed to clarify. Just at the chartered flight that I needed to talk about and those issues. So thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member and Vice Chair of Fpac, for laying the report and responding to issues. And I equally want to thank all honorable members who participated in this debate, as well as officials concerned who are here to listen to the honorable members as they take part in the debate. And I hope they have heard the intervention of the honorable members and the concern and the points and recommendations that this August Assembly want officials henceforth to take into considerations and act accordingly. Remember, I'm not sure whether you want to observe me.
But I want a clarification, that's why.
He have finished.
Who?
But he have finished. If you want
Yeah,
to
but
observe
there is
him,
something that needs to be cleared by the mover before you put it to vote.
No, the mover, you should have done that while he was...
No, I cannot do that. He needs to, be ready. Then I raise my tag. That's why I was raising my tag before you intervene.
No, when you raise your tag...
I raise my tag not to observe you, but to ask a point of clarification from the mover.
Right.
So if you can permit me to do so, I would love it.
No. When you raise your tag, if a member is speaking according to the content order, you have to let us know whether you are standing on point of correction, observation, or order. Once it's point of order, then I would ask him, please wait. Yeah, please wait.
Speaker, it's not about point of order. Listen, Honorable Speaker. Let me learn.
Please wait.
Honorable Speaker, let me learn.
Please wait.
Let me learn, please.
Please.
I raised my tag. When the member was speaking.
Honorable Member.
My tag was raised.
Honorable Member, please sit down. Honorable Member, please sit down. Please sit down. No, I saw your tag, but you have not said anything. If you want to observe him or clarification, you should have drawn his attention. Honorable Member, please, allow me to finish.
I don't want to debate much on this.
Thank you.
I don't want to, but what I'm telling you, the culture in this parliament, when a member gives a report, you wait until after the report, you can raise your tag for clarification on what he said. If you don't want to give podium, take your cake. I don't care about it. But what I'm telling you, the culture here, after the report, you have all right to raise up your tag for clarification. And I want that. If you want to deny, deny. Please, don't bother me on this.
Honorable Member, that's unnecessary. You see, what I am saying, you should listen to it.
Every speaker will give members, when you raise a report, to make clarification, for further clarification. I'm seeking that. If you are not giving me, don't bother, please. I beg. Continue.
Honorable Member, you see, you have to listen to what I am saying. You raise your point, and you have not made it clear to us to what you wanted to say. You just raise your point, your tag. If you want to stand on a point of order or observation or correction, you have to make it clear. If it is a point of order, then I will ask the honorable member on the floor to sit down and allow you to proceed. If it is a point of clarification or observation, it's up to the member to allow you to continue. I think we have to, when we are here serving as members of the National Assembly, we have to be equal to the task. I want to thank all members, those who participated, and all those who also have not participated for a brilliant intervention, and I hope that the necessary recommendation that emanated from the debate will be put forward and be adopted as recommended. Be it resolved that this Honorable Assembly do adopt the report of the Finance and Public Accounts Committee, Fpac, on the audit report of government's COVID-19 response, phase 1. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Thank you very much, Clerk. On that note, I now put the questions. Be it resolved that this August Assembly do stand adjourned until Wednesday, 14 December 2022. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. This Assembly now stand adjourned until Wednesday, 14 December 2022 at 10 a.m. prompt.